Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first edition of Exchange for Media, Public Relation and Corporate Communication Women Achievers Summit and Awards 2020, presented by AdFactors Knowledge-Driven Communication, powered by Media Mantra, creating a new you, and our gold partner, Fusion Public Relations Private Limited. Before we get onto the summit, let's take a look at the intro audio visuals. And don't forget, it is an All Women Achievers Summit and Awards. So I'd like all of you to come and participate and give a big thumbs up and love to all the women here.
The Exchange for Media, Public Relations and Corporate Communications Women Achievers Summit and Awards 2020 are the celebration of the contribution of women and their relentless pursuit of excellence in the field of public relations and communications. The first edition of the awards identifies, acknowledges and felicitates those women leaders who are shaping the industry through their incredible work. Through this initiative, we also applaud the agencies and corporates who are setting remarkable examples by encouraging gender diversity in their work culture. This year's jury panel consisted of Anusha Shetty, Grey Group, Deepa Krishnan, Starbucks, Dipali Nair, IBM India and South Asia, Julie Braham, Diageo, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Rubina Singh, iProspect, and Shazia Ilmi, BJP. We thank them for their distinguished service and congratulate all the winners.
Judging the Exchange for Media's PR and Corporate Communication Women's Achievers Award brought to mind a famous quote by Ayn Rand when she said, "The question is not who is going to let me, the question is who is going to stop me." I was truly impressed by the breadth and depth of experience these women brought, the fact that they overcame a lot of challenges and stood by their purpose with grit and determination to achieve what they have achieved so far, and the remarkable spirit of innovation that they all brought in. I truly hope that this award inspires a lot of women to come forward, showcase their outstanding work, and for them to really achieve their full potential.
Thank you, e4m, for inviting me to be one of your jurors for these awards. I'm honored. The entries that were received were absolutely awesome. They had some great work done by women using their creative and strategic thinking abilities to develop solutions in the area of PR and communications. What really also stood out were that these entries came from a diverse set, from women working in public sector companies, in private sector companies, in agencies, and entrepreneurs themselves. Also, what was really refreshing in this award was that all the entries were very well composed and well written, which actually made our task as jurors even harder. I want to congratulate all the winners and thank all the participants for participating and continuing to inspire all the women who want to walk into this field. Shine on.
Hello everybody, I'm Shazia Ilmi. Let me tell you that it was a real honor to be a jury member for these prestigious Exchange for Media Women's Achievers Awards 2020. I must tell you that it was such a delight and also a huge challenge because most of the entries were really exciting. I'm so impressed by the remarkable clarity, the sense of purpose, and the sheer determination that I saw in most of the entries. I'm sure you've had a tough time so far, and as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So all you girls out there, really proud of you. I'm sure you'll go out there, seize the moment, capture the stars, and always smile and shine and keep inspiring everybody. It was difficult to choose the winners. As I said, it was really tough. So none of you should be disappointed at all. And as always, like I said, keep shining, keep inspiring, keep being inspired.
we would also like to begin this event by thanking all our partners and the jurors of the event. Now, let me introduce myself first to all of you so that we can communicate and participate during the entire summit and awards, because I would love to hear from all of you on how you're doing, how you're empowering the women in your life or yourselves. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to Exchange for Media, Public Relation and Corporate Communication Women Achievers Summit and Awards 2020. My name is Khyati Kawa and I'm going to be your host through this day. And I'd like to tell you a little about what we have in store for us today. Now, the Women Achievers Summit brought together women leaders who are stalwarts, pioneers, and revered in their field of work. As per recent reports, in the communication industry itself, around 68% of the workforce are women. And 30% of the PR agencies that are run by women leaders. Women not only bring creativity, but also bring multifaceted talents and bring in a lot of empathy and flexibility. Women are successfully leading the PR and communication industry in various fronts. And as I read somewhere, and I'm sure all of you will agree to that, that a woman is a full circle. Within her is the power to create, nurture, and transform. Exchange for Media, through its initiative of Women Achievers Summit, wants to bring a perspective, a fresh one at that, on trends, challenges, opportunities for the women in this industry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 power-packed sessions during the course of this summit, which will talk about on the subjects of gender diversity, creativity, communication skills, and strategies. As the day unfolds, we will hear stories that are unheard and untold by the pioneers of the communication domain. And now I would like to invite, of course, our dear Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, PW Business World and Exchange for Media, to formally inaugurate the summit. So a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Batra. Over to you.
I'm very upset with you, Khyati.
Why, sir?
You called me dear. I read your post on dear. So I'm just having fun with. You posted 3 days back about deer, right?
Absolutely.
You know the joke, okay?
Yes,
Why I'm saying that. But on a very serious note, Khyati, thank you for bringing in the conference. And this is this conference, and I want to welcome all the people logged in, watching it on e4m pages or pitch on Act.net or Samachar for Media pages. First of all, I would like to say that 2 years back, we made a commitment that we'll be doing a lot more in the PR and communication domain. So as Exchange for Media, we walked the talk, we've done it. The IPR-CCA in December 2019, thanks to each one of your participation, was super successful. And primarily because of the work Karan Bhatia and his team did, Priyanka Badoria, Tushar Diwan, and everybody in the e4m team, but primarily because of Karan's leadership. Karan has also put together this event. This is an event that he has conceptualized. And we as Exchange for Media started the PR section on our site 17 plus years back. So we recognize the importance of the PR and corporate communication domain 17 plus years back, and we started a separate section. We launched the IPR-CCA 11 years back. So clearly, we at Exchange for Media understand the power of public relations. We also understand the power of corporate communication. We understand the power of evangelism. We understand the power of communication in post-COVID. I would say PR has become even more important. It is playing an even more enhanced role in the overall communication mix. Now luckily media advertising communication as an industry has lots of women. There are lots of women leaders. And within that, the PR and Comm domain has more women leaders than it has male leaders. So really, I'm happy about that there's one domain where, there is enough representation of leaders from the women gender. Though I would say performance and leadership is not about gender. It is about attitude. It is about contribution. and it is about ambition. When I talk of ambition, sometimes women are ambitious, but they don't think of ambition as a good thing. I just want to say that I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I can tell you that we encourage her to be who she wants to be. So I don't think I need to evangelize leadership or going out and doing it to this bunch of women leaders. I only want to say three things. One, the importance of PR and corporate communication in the marketing and communication mix is growing. Second, in every cloud, there is a silver lining. The silver lining is digital has got amplified. Digital has become very big. And third, dare I say, which is very, very important, that the next 12 to 18 months will see businesses championing new ideas. So the PR and Comm communication professionals can be partnered in discovery of those ideas, in evangelization of those ideas. So I think the community will have an even larger role to play. I'm very mindful of the fact that the last 4 months have been tough for all of us in the media, advertising, communication ecosystem. So I know for a lot of PR and communication agencies, it's been tough because the business environment is tough. But I also want to say that this shall too pass. I believe over the next 6 months, the economy will come back. November is Diwali. So October, November, you should see we coming to close to pre-COVID levels, maybe not fully. And hopefully by March, April next year, we would have kind of come back to our old, strengths, so to say. So I just want to say that. I also want to say that a lot of brands are on pause. In the next 2 months, you'll see those brands, re-engaging with their customers, consumers. You will also see some sectors of the economy that have not been fully functional coming back. So I just want to say that hang in there, this shall too pass. I'd like to say to you what I say to everyone and to myself, that when it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for the stars. I know I say it a lot of times, but I believe in it. And I believe in whatever happens, happens for good. And I'm very mindful of the fact that a lot of people have health issues, a lot of people have livelihood issues. I'm very mindful and sensitive of that. But we have to contribute to solving it. And also communication is very important. What institutions are doing, what leaders are doing, what brands are doing. So you have been possibly doing more work than ever, and the rewards of it will also follow at some stage. So I just want to say that today's leaders that we unveil in various categories are through a jury process. You saw the jury. I wish all of you who participated in this luck in what you do, and I congratulate the winners. And I'm sure when you see the list, you'll see that we've been able to select some new leaders and also be able to recognize the continued good work of existing leaders. So I don't want to stay between you and the leaders who will speak at the conference. Back to you, dear Khyati.
Sir, I would like to reiterate that my post was for people who are not family and friends, and yes, you are now.
It's in a, but dear is a like I write every message, most messages very personalized, dear. So that's how I am. I write it to even people. I mean, PR and Comm people write to me. I communicate with them, I engage with them, I respond with them. Sometimes not real time, sometimes real time. But I understand what you're saying.
You will agree with me, sir, that sometimes in the professional communication, dear, sweetheart, darling, babe becomes a little.
Sweetheart, darling. Dear is a currency of communication. I think dear is formal, but sweetheart, darling, I don't think one can use those words loosely or in professional business communication. I'm not for it. I think words matter. What you say, how you say matters. So I'm totally with you. And I want to say sometimes, young professionals from the PR and Comm domain call me because they have my number and because I'm responsive. And they'll say, Anurag. So sometimes I want to tell them that one, you don't know me, you call me on my time. Second is, you don't know me well enough to call me by my first name. And third is, I tell them it would be better if you set up a time to talk to me if it's important, rather than just calling me, because you'll get a better response. And most people are responsive and they understand that I'm saying that so that we create a better two-way communication. But I do very personalized communication. And dear, I think, is formal, but how you say dear also matters. The tonality matters. And I understand why you say that, and I'm totally with you. Over to you, Kathy.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for always enlightening us with your thoughts and insights and motivating. I think the thing that you spoke about, seeing the rainbow in the rains and stars in the dark, is something that I would also remember. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving forward with our summit and really exciting day in line for all of you. But before that, we would like to, communicate and spread the word about the Women Achievers Summit and Awards. So I would request all of you to please keep tweeting using the hashtag e4m Women PR Achievers Summit and e4m PR Women Achievers Awards using these hashtags. And you can tag us as well at e4m tweets. We would love to hear from you throughout the day. What do you think about the summit? If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, we'd love to hear from all of you. And now moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, to our keynote speaker, Ms. Nandita Puri, author and chair Om Puri Foundation. Ms. Nandita Puri is a former journalist turned author. She's the wife of Bollywood and Hollywood most sought after actor, late actor, Mr. Om Puri. Nandita runs a foundation in memory of Mr. Puri and has written a few books as well. And we are so delighted that she's here to talk about why do we need more leaders. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope all of you are ready to welcome Ms. Puri here on the screens. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Ms. Puri will be here with us in just a few seconds. Till then, I'd request all of you to kindly keep tweeting and comment in whichever platform that you are watching us on. We are right now live on Zoom, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So wherever you are watching us, we are reading your comments. So please go ahead and send us your live comments. What do you think about it? How excited you are to hear from the women leaders in the PR and corporate communication industry? If I can, till then, get some response from all those who are watching us on Zoom, would be great. I'm not sure if you can send me anything on chat. Is the chat open, guys, from the console for the attendees? All right.
Kathy, we'll play the AV once again till the time we have Ms. Puri on the call, on the event.
Sure, we'll do that. So, okay, great. I can see some of you already commenting. So thank you for doing that. Keep engaging here. Till then, we will show you our audio visual by the time Ms. Puri comes back here.
The Exchange for Media, Public Relations and Corporate Communications Women Achievers Summit and Awards 2020 are the celebration of the contribution of women and their relentless pursuit of excellence in the field of public relations and communications. The first edition of the awards identifies, acknowledges and felicitates those women leaders who are shaping the industry through their incredible work. Through this initiative, we also applaud the agencies and corporates who are setting remarkable examples by encouraging gender diversity in their work culture. This year's jury panel consisted of Anusha Shetty, Grey Group, Deepa Krishnan, Starbucks, Dipali Nair, IBM India and South Asia, Julie Braham, Diageo, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Rubina Singh, iProspect, and Shazia Ilmi, BJP. We thank them for their distinguished service and congratulate all the winners.
Judging the Exchange for Media's PR and Corporate Communication Women's Achievers Award brought to mind a famous quote by Ayn Rand when she said, "The question is not who is going to let me, the question is who is going to stop me." I was truly impressed by the breadth and depth of experience these women brought, the fact that they overcame a lot of challenges and stood by their purpose with grit and determination to achieve what they have achieved so far, and the remarkable spirit of innovation that they all brought in. I truly hope that this award inspires a lot of women to come forward, showcase their outstanding work, and for them to really achieve their full potential.
Thank you, e4m, for inviting me to be one of your jurors for these awards. I'm honored. The entries that were received were absolutely awesome. They had some great work done by women using their creative and strategic thinking abilities to develop solutions in the area of PR and communications. What really also stood out were that these entries came from a diverse set, from women working in public sector companies, in private sector companies, in agencies, and entrepreneurs themselves. Also, what was really refreshing in this award was that all the entries were very well composed and well written, which actually made our task as jurors even harder. I want to congratulate all the winners and thank all the participants for participating and continuing to inspire all the women who want to walk into this field. Shine on.
Hello everybody, I'm Shazia Ilmi. Let me tell you that it was a real honor to be a jury member for these prestigious Exchange for Media Women's Achievers Awards 2020. I must tell you that it was such a delight and also a huge challenge because most of the entries were really exciting. I'm so impressed by the remarkable clarity, the sense of purpose, and the sheer determination that I saw in most of the entries. I'm sure you've had a tough time so far, and as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So all you girls out there, really proud of you. I'm sure you'll go out there, seize the moment, capture the stars, and always smile and shine and keep inspiring everybody. It was difficult to choose the winners. As I said, it was really tough. So none of you should be disappointed at all. And as always, like I said, keep shining, keep inspiring, keep being inspired.
So thank you and welcome back to Women Achievers Summit. And you know, we all have been waiting for our keynote speaker, Ms. Nandita Puri, author and chair, Om Puri Foundation, who will talk to us about why do we need more leaders. We are so thrilled to have you, ma'am, here. A very warm welcome to you, waiting to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And yes, I'm really looking forward to this summit, and it's a wonderful topic. And it's a topic we need very much now, at the present moment. And well, to begin with, I'm not a feminist per se. I just believe in equality. And that is something which, you know, we need worldwide. It's not just that India, in fact, has been one of the most progressive cultures. If you look at the time of the Aryan, you know, the Mohenjo-daro, the Harappa civilization, women have always been leaders in the forefront. There was Lopamudra, there was the mother goddess, you know, in the relics of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. But somewhere along the line, it became a kind of a male-dominated society, but it's not just only in India, it's worldwide. But what happened in India was, I think in the 19th and 18th, 19th century, the state of women kind of took a backseat with the sati and, you know, the much more burning of women and the funeral pyres of their husband, etc. But this was also worldwide. But again, India arose during the freedom struggle. Along with the men, there were a great number of women freedom fighters. And we had, you know, women governors, women, you know, Sarojini Naidu, then Sucheta Kriplani, chief ministers. And most important, India was one of the first countries, earliest countries, to have a woman prime minister in Mrs. Indira Gandhi. After, I think, Sirimavo Bandaranaike, who was the first woman head in the world, in modern world, and Golda Meir in Israel, we had Indira Gandhi. And it's sad, one of the most progressive countries in the world, the United States of America, has still not had a woman as its head. And that's a shame, you know. But yes, we do have a very, very, you know, progressive, but then unfortunately, our progression is only limited to the urban Indian women. And in India especially, you see the women in the villages, in the rural sector, rarely get a chance to, to be properly educated, to have the basics, the basics in life, in terms of food, in terms of education, in terms of literacy, in terms of freedom. And that is sad because 90% of our women represent the rural sector. But yes, the 5, 7, 8% of the urban sector, definitely, though there are a lot of prejudices, we definitely are on a much more, um, um, even keel with the men. And I, for not once am I saying that we have to be greater, no, or, we have to be above men, no. We all have to survive in tandem. So it is very, very important that women and men are together. You know, equalism is more important than feminism. Now, coming back to leaders of the world, you know, as I said, India is one of the first countries to have a world leader, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and then we've also had the first woman vice president, and so on and so forth. And now, of course, it's a very common thing in India to have chief ministers who are women of various states, you know. But I think during the pandemic, especially in COVID-19, when the world really came to a standstill. It was like a third world war, and everyone was down on their knees. I think in this entire, uh, you know, period, it is, I think, the women heads of the countries who really, really took their country forward. And the prime example is the Prime Minister of New Zealand. You know, she is an amazing woman. I mean, she not only took the right decisions at the right time. She was hands on for her people, not just during the COVID, before pre COVID and post COVID. And she's one hands on prime minister. I wish it's now, I'm not saying she's a woman or a man. I'm just saying that I wish more and more world leaders follow her example. So, what happens with women? We tend to multitask, especially if you've seen in our present scenario in India, that what has happened is the women are at home. In the urban areas, women also go out to work, but they also do the cooking, the house work, everything, and then they go out to work. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, they have to do everything. Now they don't have, house help. So everything they're doing, looking after the family. And as it is, if anyone says, what do you do? And a lot of women say, I'm a housewife. Oh, I do nothing. I asked, you don't do anything? Don't you look after your house? And they say, yes. I said, then why are you saying I do nothing? A housewife is a full-time job, and it is a thankless job. And it's happened with all of us, most of our husbands always asked, including my husband, that हाँ तो तुम क्या करते हो? Servants are there, the staff is there, what are you doing? And I had to tell him, hello, I also have to see to it, manage the time, see to it everything goes in clockwork precision, so that everything, when you come back to proper home, proper meals, proper, washed and ironed, and every little nitty gritty matters. And I think women are, if when it comes to any, unusual situations, women can multitask. Women have the inner strength, and women, I think, are emotionally, whatever one says, fairer sex or whatever, women are emotionally much more stronger than men, and they're able to cope better. Now, so I feel that, the world needs more leaders, more women leaders. And it's not just men or women sexually, you're a man, gender wise. It is, we need more leaders who can multitask, who can, bring a kind of a home and outside world, strike a balance between two. And I have tried to do that most of my life, and during the pandemic, my personal experience has been, I have been doing a lot of cooking, and I'm so happy. I think that is one of the reasons which I've never been doing otherwise. My husband was a good cook, the late actor Om Puri. He was a brilliant cook. And I remember my son once writing in his school essay, my father is an actor and a very good cook. And so the teacher called me and said, Mrs. Puri, you don't cook or what? I said, well, my husband does the cooking. But in this pandemic, I have really been so happy that, one has been doing a lot of work with your hands. it's normally we tend to do a lot of work with our minds. But in the pandemic, when you are doing a lot of work with your hands, I think that keeps you much more positive than, if you're just doing a lot of mental work. And yes, I started the Om Puri Foundation, which I started in 2017. At the 70th, I launched it at the 70th Cannes Film Festival, and it was in the name of my late husband, legendary actor Om Puri. And the idea behind the foundation was twofold. One is to take his legacy forward through his 350 odd films, television serials, etc., through festivals, through, to schools, colleges, universities, festivals. And we've taken his films across to various countries also. And he was, as you know, the only actor to have been awarded the Order of the British Empire by Her Royal Highness the Queen. And the second fold of the Om Puri Foundation was to carry his philosophy and philanthropy forward. I started out by awarding the Om Puri Scholarship in his alma mater, the Film and Television Institute in Pune, and an Om Puri Fellowship in National School of Drama, again his alma mater, theatre and film scholarships. But when the COVID happened and the pandemic happened and the lockdown happened, and the world came to a stop, and I was sitting at home and I said, thank God I'm with my family. I'm at home and we have food on the table and we have shelter, roof over our heads. And I said, well, this is the time to, to reach out to people. And just helping out in theater would not really, help so much, because obviously schools and universities and colleges were closed. So through the foundation, we reached out to over 1,000 families in the Amphan affected areas of Bengal, in the Sundarbans, in, the Dabbawalas of Bombay. They're the daily wagers and their income had stopped completely. The farmers of, from Maharashtra especially, and the artisans and weavers. We tied up with various, like the Dastakar, and they gave us their database of, details of bank details of artisans and weavers all over India. And we are one NGO where we transfer the money directly to the accounts of the, the affected. So we've reached out directly, and that was one of the things of the Om Puri Foundation. And you can visit us on my website, www.ompurifoundation.com. And let me tell you, most of the women who helped me during this, most of the people who helped me during this pandemic to reach out were basically women. It's just a coincidence, that's all. And one of the main projects of the Om Puri Foundation currently is Jennifer. Jennifer is a book which is a book written by me, just published in March 2020. And we were supposed to take it around for the various city tours, but unfortunately the lockdown happened. And so, I sat during the pandemic and wrote the screenplay. Now, Jennifer is about international child trafficking and intercountry adoption, based on the true story of a girl called Jennifer Haynes, who was trafficked out of India to the US under the garb of adoption. And she was, of course, sexually abused there, got into drugs, got into mugging, all sorts of, she was put in jail, and then she was deported back to India without a passport, without any identity. And then finally she, got her passport, Indian passport, after 20 years, and she started life here. And basically it's a story of child trafficking and intercountry adoption, which I've worked on for 5 years. I would love all of you to read it. And we just completed the screenplay. So we are, getting it's soon going to be a motion picture. And coincidentally, or whatever you can say, all my books somehow end up dealing with women. My first collection of short stories, 9 on 9, had, urban Indian women as protagonists. Then my novel, Two Worlds, again, dealt with two women from different eras and centuries. And now we have Jennifer. So yes, the Om Puri Foundation wants to help women. We help out artisans. We help out, all the people who are there. And especially we want to help out women, and the Om Puri Kisan Scholarship and the Karigar Scholarship, which we award every year to weavers and farmers' children. We ensure it's mainly more for the girl child, because that is, if we help them from the base, from school days, then only they can, rise up, and we can have a very strong nation, not just by being feminists, but by being equalism. So equalism is more important than feminism. And I think women should have equal power, and women are strong as men. And I don't see, why we should be lagging behind. Only thing, we should now focus more on the rural women, the rural sector, educate the rural Indian women. That's our way. Thank you very much, and wonderful. All the best.
Thank you so much, Nandita ma'am, for being here and sharing your beautiful insights. I think I was blown away by the history that you brought into the speech. So thank you so much for being here. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, once again.
Thank you.
And let me remind all of you out there, do not forget to keep tweeting using our hashtag, which is E4M Women Achievers Summit and E4M Women Achievers Awards. We would love to hear from all of you and create a buzz on this first edition of E4M PR and Corp Comm Women Achievers Summit and Awards. Now, moving towards our first panel for the day, in which we'll be talking on women in communication, a focus on gender diversity and pay gaps. Ladies and gentlemen, this discussion would be around diversity and inclusion in the industry, how much has changed over the years, and there is another aspect of gender pay gaps across the globe. Does that exist in PR and communication industry? All of these questions and topics will be discussed during the course of our panel discussion. And I would like to now actually welcome all our beautiful panelists on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, an esteemed panel, we have here Ms. Varsha Chainani, who is Senior Vice President, Mahindra & Mahindra Limited. She is a communications and marketing strategist with over 25 years of experience across various facets of communications. We also have with us our second panelist, Ms. Pooja Pathak, co-founder and managing director, Media Mantra. Pooja started Media Mantra in the year 2012 and is also a visiting professor in APJ Institute of Mass Communication in Lead, Delhi School. We also have with us our third panelist, Ms. Madhu Chibber, CEO of Madison PR. Ms. Chibber is a true blue PR professional with over 22 years of experience across PR agencies and corporate communications, having worked at reputed firms like Good Relations and Perfect Relations. And ladies and gentlemen, our fourth panelist we have, Ms. Rachna Chaudhary, founder and director, Media Value Works. As an industry veteran, Rachna possesses 20+ years of rich experience as a communication professional with substantial expertise in delivering innovation solutions for large enterprises, SMEs, and startups. Firstly, a very, very warm welcome to all our panelists. And now let me introduce you to the moderator of the session. The moderator of the session is Ms. Shreya Krishnan, Senior Vice President and Head, Marcom, Anviti Insurance Brokers Private Limited, a broking firm. She's also a corporate trainer and consultant, an entrepreneurship mentor, CSR specialist, activist, dancer, theater artist, poet, blogger, model, anchor, TEDx speaker, and has been crowned several titles, including Cloud9 Queen 2013, Supermom 2014, Corporate Diva 2017, and Mrs. India World 2017. What an amazing, beautiful panel and a moderator that we have here. I can see two of you. I'm not sure if everybody is here. I'd like all of them to please put your videos on so that I know everybody is here and we can start the session. Wonderful. So very warm welcome to all you ladies, and Ms. Krishnan, I'd leave the screen to you.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, I didn't expect that much of an intro, but what a panel I have. And I've been super excited right from the time that I was asked to talk about this, because together, it brings It brings together some really interesting women holding very interesting positions in the community that we work in. And it also brings together two topics which are very interesting and close to my heart. Let me quickly start with telling you guys that wherever there are companies with diversity, 18 to 69% more profitability exists. The stocks are valued higher in companies where there is more diversity and inclusion. Women hold but only 13.5% of F500 CXO positions, 2.9% of F1000 companies which have CXOs at the top, and 30% of F500 companies do not even have women in their primary board of leadership. So it's going to be an interesting conversation because what I hear, the lesser prevalent of the two evils that we're discussing today, pay parity, which is going to be my first topic, first part of the conversation. I'm going to start with opening this out to all of you guys to hear from you, your thoughts on what you think about both diversity and pay parity, and then we'll come over to the question and answers. So can we start with Rachna, and then we'll move to Varsha, Madhu, and Pooja?
Sure.
Rachna, can we hear from you?
Yes. I'm now on. Lovely. Thank you, Shreya. I think it's wonderful. Thank you, Exchange for Media, for this panel. And we are all excited to be here. Like you mentioned that we do a quick summary on the theme and the topic. I think all of us do appreciate and understand the subject and its relevance in today's day and life. Taking back to some of the thoughts that even I collected and I read, and I was also quite shocked to have noted that there have been enough reports and there have been enough articles which actually says that gender diversity or women in power were fairly high in the 70s and the 80s. It started showing a dip somewhere in the 90s. And as we are heading into the century today, we are at its all-time low when it comes to women in power. I think there have been several ways we can tackle this and understand this topic, but this fundamental thing about we being higher in 70s and 80s and then dropping in 90s and then further dropping it down itself is a cause of worry, and we all should deep dive and think through and understand how can this be addressed, keeping into account all the current scenarios that we are in. I think that's a quick wrap from me on the topic, and we'll get deeper into. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Thank you, Shreya.
Thanks, Rachna. Yes, Varsha.
Sure. Shreya, this topic of gender diversity is not new, as we all know. But it's a rather complicated one, and I think as complicated as we are as women. It is something that has been discussed for now 100 years. So it's not just a few decades, but it's 10 decades, literally. And there is a need to break these gender barriers, so to speak. We aren't a minority. We are an overwhelming 50% of the population. And if every person's life, we talk about upbringing, who is responsible for that? It is really the woman of the house, right? And that is our power to use or misuse. And we bring up our children, both girls and boys, really differently. And it's a cause of concern. And I'm sorry, I'm starting with really the brass tacks, but it was important to just bring this point that the power lies within us, and there is a need to break the cultural, societal, religious stereotypes and inhibitions that we continue to carry as we go ahead. And this is not about feminism, truly. It's about accepting ourselves as feminine, which is the diverse element of it, rather than the masculine element. And being happy in our own skin, our own diversity, as individuals that have a right to thrive, rather than permission or policies to do so. And I strongly believe that we women need to overcome these limiting beliefs and self-doubts that we have, and instead discover ourselves as the magnificent, powerful beings with limitless opportunities, a force to reckon with, and the power to do that lies with each one of us. We need to awaken that force. As a leadership coach, I'm dedicated to the cause of women in leadership roles, progressing women in their careers. That's my passion. And especially now, I believe again that it's not about companies, but all of us individuals who make organizations. Otherwise, companies have only four walls. And communicators like us will make all that difference. I'm a founding member of Global Women Global Women in PR, which is GWPR, a non-profit organization, and it's a network of about 2,000 global senior communicators who work in companies, agencies, consulting firms independently in, I think, about 5 countries or so. And our goal is truly to encourage women and support them in taking leadership in communications role. Now, some of you will be thinking, what are we talking about? 70 to 75% of the PR industry is dominated by female. So do we really need a network like that? Do we really need to talk this talk? The reality is that in the boardrooms, the figure of males in the boardroom is almost as close as 62%. And that's across the world. And if you really look at India, that goes as high as 78%. And studies suggest facts, and Shreya, you talked about some of them, that companies with more female executives perform much better. They're far more profitable, almost 10% greater profit margins. Having women in the decision-making room, which is your boardrooms, really are able to, they are able to bring a larger perspective and understanding of their customers, which is the 100% set that we have. So women are an overwhelming majority at the entry and mid levels in the communications industry. That number steadily decreases as people get into senior levels, and we need to change that. And women in communications need to support each other, which is each other as women, and show the network of girl power. Those are my initial thoughts, Shreya, and I'll pass the baton on.
Yes, on the note of girl power, I'll just pass it on to Madhu. Madhu, we'll hear your thoughts and then go to Pooja, and then I'll start with the Q&A.
Thank you, Shreya, and thank you for the welcome, and hello to my co-panelists and audience. So I think I will echo most of the thoughts and sort of carry and add a few to what my fellow panelists have said. So like Varsha, I'm also a founding member of the GWPR's India chapter. And there are interesting things which we have learned. Ours is not a market, if I come straight into PR, that actually has been collecting data and running surveys to learn more about diversity in our industry per se. We've been looking at global reports, etc. And I think Varsha has given you a top line peep into what India looks like, that indeed there is a skew. And if I can refine that further, I think while the bulk of women, 2/3 of the women population of the PR industry comprises of women, the skew tends to be from the account executive to the associate, director level, whereas the higher ranking positions tend to be more occupied with men. And I think that is somewhat of a reflection of a larger issue, which we'll discuss as we go along. A lot of, I think, is cultural, and societal, unique to different countries, but with a lot of commonalities across most of us. Over the years, I've seen that, having led a team of, say, about 450 odd PR professionals in the last 4 years or so, I think diversity in India, diversity is not really, gender diversity is not such an issue. It's not a conscious bias, but it so happens that in the senior positions, for various reasons, which I hope we will discuss, we do tend to see a lot of male representation. If I can, as an aside, according to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report, none of us are going to see a gender parity in our lifetimes, and nor will that of our children. They say the gap is going to last for about 100 years. And as per the same report, men and women will have a pay parity equality in 257 years. of which, India ranks 112 on the same global gender gap index. So is there an issue? Yes. Do we in India have such a big issue in PR? I don't think so, but let's talk more about it.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a positive note as well, to think that we're already progressing and being progressive in the whole context of things. So Pooja, can we hear from you? And then I'll quickly switch to the Q&A.
Hi, everyone. I think when you have to give an introduction, you are the last on the panel. I think most of the points have already been covered and everything. But yes, just to add on what everybody is saying, yes, diversity shortage is something that I think has been that everybody's been talking about. But the bigger question is that, yes, we have to look at it from our industry, that we are still, I think we should still be thankful that we are not creating it as a, we are not discriminating it to a very large extent, as compared to other industries which are very, which have stereotypes, which, which dictate the obligation of, like this is the quantifiable thing that men can do, and this is what women can do. So I think in our industry, I think it's a very progressive industry. Yes, and everything differs from organization to organization. But I think if we as young people are able to create that difference and we are able to foster that change, I think that is something that will be the nourishment for the generations to come ahead. I think the panel today has to talk about what is it that we all can do together. And I think the issue has been there, and I think it has to be an optimistic panel to be giving some good notes and good takeaways to the people to really think that how can we make it better and how can we probably help everybody progress with such a scenario which is there. So I think that's my introduction for the panel and the topic we're discussing.
You're right, which is why I plan to go backwards now. So I'm going to start with you and pose my first question, which is for all of you. Did discuss pay parity issues, and we said, is it really relevant in context of our industry? Do you see that? And are there gaps? So can you tell us with anecdotes or examples if you feel or believe that this exists for us, and how true or how real is it? How much should we weigh it with, up or down?
So I think, when we talk about it from our industry perspective, so to say, when we have to recruit somebody, our message to the HR is to look for a person according to this particular JD. So there, the concept or the discussion is not really about any gender. It is, and it is nothing to do with any parity on anything. It is more about talent. It is more about who will suit that position. Whether it's a male or a female, that is all secondary. But the first question is that who will fit the role? And also, I think if you look at the kind of, the ground that PR has, there is more representation of both men and women, even in terms of like fintech or finance and everything. So it is not just obligated to only men can do finance and women can't take up the finance client. It is definitely not like that. And it's not even the fact that men can't do lifestyle clients. So, I think if that is the narrative that that the agencies and the firms are working towards, I see there is definitely no reason why we are, there is no reason for any discrimination here. And not just that, not just about gender and all. I think age also has no difference, has no discrimination in our industry. You look at so many young people who are making a difference today. So age also has no difference when it comes to our industry. It is only talent driven. And this is what I firmly believe from our side.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Madhu, switching the lens over to you and asking you, in your experience, have you ever noticed this? And, while it's positive to hear this, we really need to see and understand if we really need to weigh this with as much of angst as we usually associate to it. Collectively, yes, it does exist, but your lens on the same.
If I begin with my personal experience, like I said, no, I've never experienced a conscious bias in our industry in terms of, a conscious bias that we've gone into for pay. And as Pooja just said, I think for us, very, very consciously speaking for myself, at least, it's been maybe find the best candidate for the job. There are internal bands, and we hope that they would fit into that. I think there are a host of issues that come in if internally one does not have one's act right within the company, because then that can create imbalances, which can then go on to become what could be perceived as a bias, purely going by the statistics of the numbers. Since India really doesn't report, or at least I've not known of service reporting numbers, let me take an example from the UK, because what I said might sound like the PR industry doesn't have a problem. So say, for example, the UK, which was found to be one of the biggest gender pay gaps in Europe, and that's a country where the communications industry reports and reports figures annually. So despite women accounting, like I said, for 66% of the employees, the gender pay gap in the sector was 21% last year. So while it appears that there isn't an issue, obviously we can't be so diverse from the global trend that there isn't any issue. The good part is it's obviously not a big problem. And if we were to introduce, in my opinion, the introduction of a gender pay gap reporting in other countries has been a step in the right direction. And I'd root for that in India, because I think we'd all learn, we'd all get better. If we are doing good, we'll only get better. Because India has a lot of, I think the skill and wage mismatch is perhaps further exacerbated in India by, societal norms. Which could be marriage, maternity, mobility, which cause a dent in women's workforce participation. And I guess this is true even of the world of PR and communications. And increased sensitivity could only enhance representation and outcomes. And as my co-panelists have spoken, that how much a diverse and more fair workforce only leads to a better company, better candidates, better outcome, better, better brand equity, better everything.
Yes. So I know, Varsha, you spoke very categorically about how in your experience this has never happened to you. So let's hear from you and what you have to say in context of this, and where is the problem versus how are we seeing it?
Sure. Does pay parity exist? Yes, it does. Now, is it more or less? We don't know, because there is no data. Like in UK, most of the companies have to submit that data from a pay parity perspective. That transparency, I should say, does not exist in India. But if you look at studies from an unorganized sector, from the disparity perspective, they have shown that there is a disparity, pay parity. There is no parity, it's disparity literally from a disorganized sector. And I think that goes on to organized sector as well. Now, have I faced it? Yeah, we've all gone from a time when we thought we weren't paid enough, not because we were women, but generally as people, we thought we were not paid enough to the work that we do. So I would think that gender pay gap causes are complex and overlapping. Men and women enter the workplace in roughly equal numbers, but women fall back behind in promotions from the very first step that they get into even middle management ladder, right? Women drop out due to receiving fewer development opportunities. And that leads to advancement and bearing more responsibility at home as compared to men, has an impact on a woman's career, and hence promotion and hence pay parity as we go higher. Responsibility is not only of organizations. I personally feel the responsibility is for each woman employee to say, how do I, if I'm in my job and if I feel I'm not paid as well, what can I do? I think it's up to us to be confident, to ask for a pay rise, to ask them to review salaries. I also think that we need to be asked for more responsibility because that responsibility have a larger portfolio. so that we can do well for the company and in the company. And I think rehearse these discussions, because these discussions are not easy, but we need to kind of necessarily have them. And everything takes a little more time for women than men. And you would have seen that probably Shreya and Madhu and all of us on the panel. We take a little more time than some of the men do. And so it's very important to plan our promotions, plan our pay parity, and look at that performance appraisal period, be clear about our expectations. And sometimes if that doesn't work, move the companies. And when you're moving, just be clear that what is your worth, but just be clear on your worth, on your skill sets, your experience, what makes you special. Do not compromise and shortchange yourself from a salary position, and be a tough negotiator. And I think that that responsibility lies with individuals rather than the companies. Because in my 5 jobs that I've had in the last 30 years or so, I've seen that it's about you in that room, really negotiating what works and doesn't. And if you're strong enough to know what you really want, you will get it. There's no two ways about it. Does that answer your question, Shreya, in a way?
It does. Actually, it answered my next one as well, which was what can we do when we're seeking employment? So thank you so much, Vasha. That truly does answer a big segment of this, which is we take the ownership. It's on us. The onus is on us. So with that, Rachna, I'm going to shift it to you and ask you to talk about 2 things. One is, of course, the overall topic around pay parity. And the second question, which is more pointed, is, do you think there is a difference in pay parity issues between bands of employment? Is there a difference in the lower, middle versus higher? And if you think so, why? So Rachna, tell us a little bit about both, and then I'll quickly switch over to the next segment of our discussion.
Sure, lovely. Thank you so much. I think this is getting deeper and deeper and becoming more and more interesting, because there's lessons as well. You can continue to talk about it, but frankly, I think at every point in time with every woman, there is some arrangement which gets made, which is not getting captured in any reports, So if we want to go about talking at it at a macro level, yes, there is gender parity, yes, there is this, yes, there is that. But if you go really deep and you understand, and maybe you interview 20 women, we may get an answer which may be contradictory to what we are sitting and talking about, So there is something which really happens, and there is a personal connect that the women creates, and in organizations, and a setup gets created very easily, which is suiting the women. When this happens, so coming to the band, what happens typically, we all are, maybe when we talk about it in a report perspective, we talk about things which are published data, and we take up things which are available statistics. So we know the available statistics always would be that the starting of women and starting of people are at this salary brackets, and this is the level they move into. But those are easy indexes to refer. When it comes to band, see, there's an easy way to correlate. There's an age and the responsibility of the women. We all know this, there's certain age, the girl starts her career, then she gets married, then she settles down, then she gets into maternity, and then the life goes on, and then she becomes a mother, young toddler mother, and then a teenager mother, and then go. So this can be translated into lower management, middle management, and then higher management, subject to few exceptions here and there, we all know. Broadly, it remains there. The parity subject continues to be there, but I would imagine every lady makes her arrangement which suits her, and she thrives on it beautifully thereafter. Exceptions are there. So to express this, band is directly proportional to age, and age is directly proportional to a responsibility at home. And more so, why we are seeing this now, because I believe it's in the initial years, the family setup that we women enjoyed. Probably we had joint families, we had many people to take care of children, etc., etc. There were many elders around us. So probably women that time were more capable of stepping out and doing things. Today, we are in a hardcore nuclear setup, and it's only just, this is making life further difficult. But the pandemic has opened the Pandora's box all over again. So all said and done, that we are trying to establish, maybe the pandemic and the work from home culture brings in complete parity now with men and women working from home being at par, at responsibility at home, at responsibility at work. So that can solve this completely. So we should make this as the pandemic and the learnings from there can change this conversation completely thereafter.
You know, it reminds me of a joke, because every time somebody asks me about plans for children or marriage or home, I would say, I'm sorry, but there's no umbilical cord connection between my marital status, my parental status, and my career. They're independent of the two or the three. But jokes apart, I'm going to quickly move to Madhu on her context in terms of being the employer when you're hiring and what happens in that context. And then we'll move into the diversity discussion super quickly. So Madhu, your thoughts on this?
So is the question about as a potential employer, what are the things that we do or should be doing actually to make sure that we're mitigating the gap being there? Is that what your question is? Okay, so I think for companies that are ahead of the curve in plugging the gender pay gap, parity is not a best practice tick box. Essentially, it is one of the mainstays of their work culture. There is a belief, there is a senior leadership buy-in to that thought, and just a buy-in to that thought is not sufficient if it's not going to take a structured outflow. In my opinion, you know, I could feel for it, but if I don't have a structure around it, it may not stand up to the passion with which I've approached it. So, the gender pay gap issue is one which is quite intense, and I mean, way bigger than, you know, the time permits for us. But let's say, for the sake of discussion, it is about length of service, experience, and specialization, to put it just in a very brief nutshell. And the recruiters need to, or the hirers need to understand the reasons behind the figure gaps, if there are any, and then address the issues. So I think the first thing is have clearly defined bands to ensure the wage parity right from the offer level, because disparities happen when we're hiring from outside. You know, someone comes in at a higher level and then they carry on with increments at that level. Someone comes in at a lower level for the same position. And how unfair is that? So unconsciously, we've created a gap within the organization without intending to. I think the industry can do well to eliminate the practice of asking candidates for their salary histories. Look, we all do it, but remuneration, the minute we structure it, should be as per job size, job role, and internal band set for the role. There will be outliers, and I think that's something which, you know, individual salary corrections as per policies of companies will kick in. There should be market analysis, I think, from time to time to ensure wage parity. More importantly, check for unconscious bias in increments during the appraisal cycles. You know, also role-wise salary benchmarks, because it takes a certain strategic talent review by all concerned internally, not to make assumptions on what kind of roles women can do and what women can't do. And let me give you an example. I mean, because the whole gender issue as well as the pay parity issue is somewhere closely somewhere holding hands. So, you know, once when I was filling the position for what was a sports practice and a lead position for it, we had a fantastic team, fantastic clients, you know, which included kabaddi and at a national level, as well as football, ISL to be specific. I think my mind went to looking for, I was visualizing this male candidate who, you know, knew football and was good at knowing the sport. And that's the sort of CVs we were wanting to see. And right there in my own team, there was a woman leader who eventually, you know, managed to take that position. And did she do a fantastic job? Absolutely. So that's my own example of my own mind going towards you know, sort of maybe a preconceived notion of a role. And I think these are things I want to watch out for as an employer. I will also echo and say that I do believe that women should assert themselves, because whose job is it? Mine as an employer, the companies as the employer, but also women themselves need to assert and be, you know, to work towards the fact that their earnings are not compromised. Surveys have shown that women feel uncomfortable about the negotiating process. I mean, I think I do. So I'm sure several women will hold up their hands. And let me share a sort of a cute anecdotal mention on this. So I read somewhere end of last year that there was a women's football championship match in Brazil, and the scoreboard for that displayed a 0.8 instead of a 1 after the first goal by one of the teams. And these are two women's teams playing, to highlight research proving that women earn 20% less than men for the same work. And this was not just a gimmick, the gesture was part of the action by the Football Federation and the UN Women. So, I mean, I like the fact that they had the spirit to take this dialogue out in a stronger fashion.
Yeah, the power of communications is immense. And I think this, the context of this panel is not just to do what we are talking about in the industry, but to take it further and back into our jobs and back into the industries we come from. Pooja, I'm going to now come to you and move quickly into the next segment of our conversation, which is diversity and inclusion. It's going to be the same question that I'm going to start with. So we start with Pooja, Rachna, Varsha, and then back to Madhu. So Pooja, tell us, do you see true inclusion and diversity? Share some anecdotes, and we'll go down the line with the same question for everybody.
So yes, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, I think the organizations that we are talking about and the companies that we're talking about as an industry, yes, it is very inclusive. And when I say inclusive, it is to an extent that, yes, we look at, as I said before also, that it is about talent representation. It is, everything else is very secondary. And also I would like to come to the fact that, when it comes to women representation, I think most of the time the obligation to not continue lies with also the women, because I think earlier there were less flexibility scenarios. Like, I think with the onset of maternity policy, the dropout rate for a women have become very less now, because you feel more secured. You feel that, yes, you have that chance of revival. And then, and then the concepts of sabbaticals and all, I think all of that policies that have now come into the picture, they kind of, make the other person, they kind of make the women feel more powerful and more confident. And not just that, when it comes to, taking care of the child also, there are facilities which the organization is also extending to its employees to ensure that they definitely don't drop out. So I think career cycle and the biological cycle, they never run together, right? It is up to us to make it, we have to keep on working on it so that we are able to ensure that our cycles have to work like that, and they have to coincide together. And it is, I think a lot is about the mindset. If we believe that, and women can do multitasking, I think every report suggests only one thing: the way women can multitask, I think men can't multitask. So having said that, if we have the capability of using that multitasking skill, then I think, yes, everything else gets answered. So I think mindsets are something which needs to be carved more, and organizations are definitely there to support. And with policies coming into play, I think there is no reason to shy away from why you should drop out. I think this is what I believe.
Right, great. Thank you for those thoughts. I'm going to switch to Rachna. Rachna, tell us a little bit about what you see. Is this really a true cause for concern in terms of diversity and inclusion? But where do you have a sense of this?
Sure. Taking this on 3 levels, let me quickly summarize my thoughts as an employer. As we receive a lot of CVs of, typically women having worked and then taken a break and then joining back. And yes, as an employer, I've been more than happy and more positive towards supporting such women and getting them back on track. And we are, once they get into action, then they're back again in the industry. It's just about giving that one break to somebody to encourage that person to get started back. So that's a personal contribution that I've been personally doing for the last several years now. So that's one part, to make sure that we help each other in our own little way in getting women back into the industry who took sabbaticals, or at another level, when we want to summarize this for women in communications business, we are talking our industry. We've been extremely thankful, very positive. Our industry is very dynamic. And I think we have not just multitasking people, we have strategy going around inside the heads of all of us in the business. And this kind of very complex work, which we've been doing right from our mobile phones and swinging on, I don't know how many emails can we respond to and how many multitasking thoughts can we do for so many different clients and things like that. This typically is not the cup of the tea of a man who's got a methodical thinking process, etc. So there we have a super edge, and hence women in communications business are flying high and will continue to fly high. And this is not just in India, this is a global phenomenon. When we take this to the highest level and we go back to that parity and we take it back to the top management, yes, we still have a little to and fro happening over there, but I think Indian women are catching up fast. And some of these large institutions, which are maybe international PR agencies or driven by corporate culture, and they have mandates to make sure that diversity is a part and the HR hiring has to happen like that. At some levels where the individual is running the business and he is typically a male founder member of a PR industry, he is running his own business, so it's up to his discretion how he wants to manage his team. But largely, I think in communications business media sector, we are all extremely supportive of thriving on women at any age bracket across any background sector, and we can support them to thrive on. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachna. Barsha, moving to you, in your span, have you seen true inclusion more so than diversity? Because diversity is obviously a representative of the community that we work in, but inclusion, so tell us a little bit about that and tell us your perspectives on the same.
Sure. So you're right. Inclusion is at the top and diversity is a part of inclusion. I do agree. And inclusion is about thoughts, inclusion is about ideas, and engagement. I think it's a combination of both. I think by and large organizations understand why is diversity and inclusion important for them. So that's not something that is a question mark. So for example, the GWPR, again, annual survey talked about organizations understanding that more inclusion has to be there, that we need to improve working practices for women in industry. There was to ensure that more women get into the boardroom, that they will improve creativity, productivity, employee satisfaction, and profitability. So I think the realization that inclusion is important is there. Are organizations and our employers taking enough initiatives towards that? I think so. But inherently, we got to understand that organizations, again, is run by people like you, me, our parents, our relatives, and our neighbors, right? These are the people who run organizations. And if those people don't change, then it's very difficult for those people to change in their organizational roles wherever they exist, irrespective of organizations having the right processes. They're the ones who will in the end hire, right? Because the number of women in organizations is a little less. And specifically, if I was to look at inclusion in the communications industry, and I think that's what our focus is today, I think that diversity and inclusion is very much there and open at the entry level. It is, I think one of our panelists mentioned about people or women having a requirement at a particular age, right? Which is your mid-careers. After 5 to 10 years in a company, that's where women fall behind. Because though there is inclusion available and enough facilities available, I think women's priorities change themselves. So it's not about organizations, it's really about individuals and women like you and me, literally. And what has been seen again, that are the top barriers for women is childcare and caring responsibilities, because sometimes they care for their in-laws and mothers and father, not mothers, excuse me, mother and father. or their relatives, flexibility and working policies, women-friendly working policies, work-life balance. Again, transparency from a recruitment to promotion level, as well as sexual harassment. It has been noted that 33% of women, and I'm talking about communications field, I'm not talking about outside, face sexual harassment, but only 50% of which gets reported. That means 50% of which does not get reported. So I think they do feel there are barriers. Again, as I said, it's about individuals really being a little more responsible for themselves rather than just organizations and inclusivity, so to speak, at the forefront of it. I know this is not conclusive, but I think there is a lot happening in both the organization and in both individuals and their growth in the organizations. And there is more that needs to be done as well, Shreya.
Absolutely. Thanks, Varsha. Madhu, I'm going to come to you and ask you the same question, but now in context of that, the employer. And, Varsha spoke about policies and mindset, and so did Pooja and Rachna. So tell us your perspective, and I'll quickly move into the next segment, which is going to be
that's been presented so far.
Rapid fire. Yes, I'm aware we have
be opening up to questions and answering your questions towards the end. If we don't get a chance to do that, we'll certainly be coming back personally to continue to ensure we're addressing what we need.
I don't know, that was
so while you're entering that into the chat, I'm now going to pass over to...
Okay, so I don't know where that came from, but I know I'm conscious of time too. So Madhu, we'll come to you and then we'll quickly do like the last round and I'll move to the Q&A.
I'll make this very short because I think, like I mentioned, Varsha and I are both members of GWPR. We have access to the same data and essentially I was going to enumerate that. But adding to that, I will say that, from personal experience, what I've seen and heard from colleagues, and more specifically now, not global, but India responses. So when you look at India responses, I think women are always asking for more training opportunities. Women are asking for, there is the childcare, there is the truth that we are women have a caregiving responsibility. Absolutely, not just in PR, anywhere. All of these facts are true. However, they do say that there need to be more mentoring schemes. There needs to be more training opportunities. I've not heard men ask for that more, even in my personal experience. It will be more female colleagues. And that's not to talk about things that may be contemporary, like say digital or whatever, which may be a bigger ask across the team. On-site childcare facilities is something as an employer one can do. And I know some fabulous companies that have done these things, and made it mentally hassle-free for women to be able to come to work. I think also being mindful of bias in the recruitment process. Biases can be of a different nature. The whole concept of diversity, a lot of times we think of it as male, female, but it's about, like people said, age, gender, religious ethnicity, which is not such a big deal in India, but nonetheless, it is important. It is about cultural backgrounds. It is, so there are so many facets to it. Even, did we just time out?
No, we didn't. Go ahead. Because the next question to you, both you and Varsha, and we'll go backwards, is the fact that have you seen barriers to women progressing into senior positions, and what can not just get them into the boardroom, get a seat at the table and a share of voice? So that's my connected question. So I'll get you to answer this. Go back to Varsha, go back to Rachna, and finish with Pooja.
Yeah, so I will answer this saying that no, I have never seen a bias to let a woman, I have never experienced a bias personally to let a woman get to a senior position. I think there is an equal role for the candidate themselves, because of their many responsibilities and probably their personal decision. I know some fabulous women who are fantastic professionals who may have taken a personal decision to go slow to balance the many roles that they play. They want to experience life in that flavor, and that's a very personal choice. And if someone, it would be unfair if that person who was worthy and wanted to give her profession an equal shot as anybody else and was willing to go for it, is held back by the environment. So there are environments like that. I'm sure it's not just in PR. We hear of it. There is sexual harassment. There are a lot of other elements. But honestly, I think in PR, I think it's the playing field is more or less better than maybe many industries. And I'd love to hear from Varsha.
Yeah, Varsha, your thoughts on this? Barriers to being in the boardroom, seat at the table, share a voice.
There aren't any barriers, but we create barriers because people who hire are the ones, they want people like them to be in the boardroom, just like them. Directors, I'm not just talking about senior leadership, I'm talking about board of directors. And a woman would say, when I talk, men start looking at their shoes anywhere but me. There are people who will repeat what I have said as though it's their own idea on the same damn table. So is there a barrier? No, because the person, that lady, is still in that board of directors. But for them to thrive, it is important for women to support their own kinds as well, so that there are more of women in that boardroom. I think that needs to be done for sure.
Absolutely. Rachna, coming to you, our company is rooting for diversity. Is there an openness to mindset? What do you see? Because clearly I'm having a great feeling at the end of this, because I'm like ahead of the game, people join us, so.
Sure, Shreya. I think we are all almost moving to conclude that yes, see, the age of experimentation has happened. People have started there. So moment we say diversity and inclusion, it only now is meaning getting women included in the job. And that again is a very shorter definition of inclusion and diversity. Maybe diversity and inclusion is a far wider subject, and getting just women and men and gender is a very small subset of that topic, frankly speaking. So we can discuss about it maybe on another agenda altogether, about when we talk diversity, and then you talk about different ways of communities and different classes of people, and it can be a far deeper subject rather than only male versus female discussion that we are having. As far as male and female are concerned, I think as a society we are heading there. We will still head there. Still, we are maybe 257 years away from where we want to be. But maybe the pandemic will cause some kind of parity to be brought in at a lesser number of years that we can, maybe it can lower down. So that's one area. And I think our industry supports the environment. The ecosystem is so women friendly in our industry. Hence, we are thriving here. And it finally is the personal call of the particular lady. She has to design her life. She has to be determined, and she has to take that step. Others can come in, help. There could be enough reports which can talk positive, can talk negative, and one can continue to read. But it is that lady on the house, on the job, who decides her own life, her own design, her own pattern. And that's we request all women to go all out and go ahead and get that going.
That's very true. The buck stops at me. Pooja, your closing thoughts, because you spoke about what can you and I do to be that change. So can we hear from you, Pooja? And then I'll quickly go into this one audience question that I would like to share with the panel. So Pooja, do we have you? I hope Pooja is still around.
Yeah,
Pooja, yeah.
I think my closing thought on this is a small saying that says, a strong woman looks at a challenge in the eye and gives it a wink. And I think this is what it is for women, that, fine, it is there. See, if you set the priority, I think there's nobody else who can put stop gaps in your life. So I think this is what I come from that school of thought. It's more about our mind game, and ecosystem is there. You have opportunities, you have everything which is there to support you. You may not be 100% everywhere. You can still be 80% and still be optimistic about it. So, I think all the priorities that we set, we want to be perfectionist in everything. But I think in something, delegation of work is also important. If you can delegate that work, and not everything you can do it yourself. So I think we wear many hats as it is. So I think it's better to have and adjust with that 90%, because that's the new 100%.
90 is the new 100. On that note, we have one question from the audience. I'm going to read it out loud, and I would like any of you to take it. For years, we've been linking diversity, which is equivalent to hiring more women. It goes much beyond that. I would love to hear an expanded view on this. I think the panel already did a fair job of addressing not just hiring, but across the board topics. But if anybody wants to chime in quickly and take that, and then we'll go into the last one.
I mean, if I can say just 2 lines on this, and I'm conscious of time. I mean, diversity, it's time that we looked at it as a wider issue than just gender. You know, because if we look at it only as gender, then we're going to be only dealing with that aspect. There is, like we said, age, there is sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, disability. We don't talk about that. Socioeconomic background, among so many other things. You know, the minute we have an internal reporting mechanism and some guidelines, automatically a number of these things come to the fore, gaps get identified wherever they may be, and, you know, we move forward. So our recruitment partners, I think it's time they need to demonstrate what they are actively doing to increase the pipeline of diverse talent into the PR industry, factoring in all of these various elements, and yet giving us the best candidate for the job.
I think what this panel has done is open up multiple opportunities for research, because we clearly don't have the data, and that's an opportunity for anybody who wants to dive deeper into this and understand this context. My quick closing rapid fire, I'm going to give you each one line, and I just want you to finish it. Madhu, I'll start with you. Diversity is?
Oops, that's a big one. Fairness, it's inclusiveness.
And Varsha, inclusion is?
Acceptability.
And Rachna, gender does not dash.
My, that's a difficult one. Gender does not differentiate.
And lastly, Pooja, last but not the least, but the industry should? The industry should dash.
Industry?
Should dash.
The industry should be full of opportunities. Full of opportunities.
All right. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on this superbly amazing panel that I got to moderate today. Thank you, Varsha, Madhu, Rachna, and Pooja. You guys were fabulous. Handing it back to the team. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Shreya, but where's the coffee hamper?
That is the longer rapid fire.
Thank you. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Shreya, for steering this very beautiful conversation, so insightful, filled with insights and food for thought for all of us. So I think what I can, summarize this panel discussion is with just one quote that I would like to present to all of you, that there is actually no force that is more powerful than a woman who is determined to rise. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to move to our next panel discussion. Again, a topic which is going to stir so many conversations across the spectrum. Women and public relations, the perfect marriage. It is a perfect match as women have multifaceted skill sets, are more empathetic to clients, resilient to external pressures, can multitask, we've spoken so much on it, and eliminate stereotypes and promote flexible working as well. We've spoken of this also in our previous panel, but to talk about specifically in the public relations domain. This amalgamation has proven to be more productive in achieving new milestone. The panelists here will share their perspective, and I would like to introduce them to all of you. Our first panelist, Ms. Gauri Kohli, is a leader in luxury public relations, having worked with leading global brands from Estee Lauder companies to her knowledge industry is unparalleled. Our second panelist is Stuti Jalan, who is the founder and managing director of Crosshairs Communication, an award-winning entrepreneur, young achiever, internationally recognized as emerging women leader, founded Crosshairs Communication. Our third panelist is Ms. Neha Malhotra, Executive Vice President, Avian We. Armed with 16 years of industry experience, Neha began her career with Avian We back when it was Avian Media at its infancy, working with only 2 clients to its name, Airbus and Sona. Today, Neha is responsible for supervising over 30 accounts. Our fourth panelist for the discussion is Ms. Lawang Khare, Senior Vice President at AdFactors PR, with over 18 years of hands-on experience and understanding of communications from both client and the communications agency end, have worked across categories including FMCG, technology, telecom, power, infrastructure, transport, financial, healthcare, hospitality, retail, and public affairs. She's done it all. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator for this session is Ms. Tasmai Roy, Assistant Editor at Exchange for Media. I welcome all you lovely ladies to the panel discussion here. I hope all of you are here. I'd like you to please switch on your video camera so that I can see you here. Warm welcome. I'm going to wait a few seconds for all the other ladies to join in as well. And then let me inform
Hi, Kathy.
Very warm welcome, Gauri. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, everyone.
Everybody. Hello.
Hi. I think you have stopped the video.
Yes.
So...
We know from our own global thought leadership that we've reached an inflection point of defining the role of business in society.
We're waiting for Stuti, I guess. I can't put on my video because it says the host has stopped it.
Oh, okay. Kathy, can you do something about it?
I'm going to request, yes, the team to kindly switch on the video for Stuti Jalan, please. I also don't have the control here.
Yes, we have you.
There you are, Stuti. Hi.
Brilliant. So very warm welcome, ladies. And Tasmai, I'm going to leave the screen to you to steer this very intriguing conversation.
Right. Thank you so much, Kathy. I'll take it right from there, and without wasting much time into introductions, Kathy has already done it. We straight away come to our topic today. It's kind of very interesting that women and public relation, the perfect marriage. And so through the session, let's talk about the experiences and about the stereotypes that are there, and the, whatever images that are there that we're trying to understand. There are some notions that we're trying to break. So let us just go through that. And I'll straight away come to my first question. It's very interesting that more than 60% of the workforce in this profession are women. And not just that, most of the CEOs and the leaders in this profession is also women. So, is there any particular reason behind it, or what made, women reach this success in this profession? What works in their favor? So we'll start with you, Gauri, if you can tell us a little bit about it.
It's such a empowering question, because of course women have a lot to celebrate, not just today, but I think we as women have had so many skill sets which are unique to us. I think we're good listeners. We can multitask like no one else, because I feel that we have that whole good attention to detail as well. So it's not just that we can be creative and curious, but we can actually multitask to a level which I don't think men can as much, be it, wearing many hats, which women do. And I think today, when women are juggling roles, being moms or trying to manage homes or even otherwise, I think women have that ability to, the mental rotation that they can go over. It's outstanding, I feel. And I always feel that that's a differentiating factor for sure. Other than that, I think we collaborate a lot, right? I think we can work together very well with teams. We're pro-social, and I think it comes naturally to women. I think we're curious. So even that is a skill set that adds, I think curiosity may have killed the cat, but in our case, it creates a PR winner, So I think those kind of elements add to women being a perfect role for PR.
Right. So, like you rightly mentioned, curiosity, creativity, the ability to multitask, those are things that Gauri told us about. Lavang, what is your view on this? What are those factors that you think that keeps women at the top of their game in this profession?
So Tasmai, I think most of us are going to give you very similar kind of responses.
Right.
And first of all, I think it's lovely to be in a forum where you have all these women who are empowered and successful in their own way.
Right.
Passion and energy and positivity are three things, that women have embedded in them. And if I may take an opportunity to say so, I think every woman is a PR professional anyways. whether she's in PR or she's running a home, or she's with her family or with her kids or with friends. It's that friendliness and that communication skill and the power to think differently, which actually makes us stand out. And it's not just public relations, but when you look all across, you've got women right there on the top.
Right,
Yes,
right.
things are evolving. It was very different maybe 7, 8 years ago. And the fact that you've managed to get so many women in for the forum that you're organizing today, I think speaks for it all. But most important, it's the hypertasking, which Gauri said, multitasking. Women are hypertaskers. And when you look at the last 4 months and the way COVID has shown resilience, which is a key trait of any woman across the world, I think is what has made us be where we are. I just want to tell you all one thing for sure. It's the responsibility, commitment, the ability to listen properly. And that's the reason women are where they are today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Neha, how do you want to put this in? You know, we've heard the common points, and I'm sure you have similar things to say. But what would you have to add into this, Neha?
Yeah, so great. I mean, thanks, Gauri, and thanks, Lavang. I think you guys have made some really valid points. I'm really going to go back in time and I'm really going to look at women power from the time when women are born. And I'm really going back to mythology right now. Uh, Sita, who was actually capable of easily killing Ravan, but chose to downplay her power to establish Ram as God. This portrays two qualities of women. One is being fierce, and second is being modest at the same time. Another example is from Ma Durga. She embodies all the qualities that women are endowed with. She also is referred as Triambake, which actually means a goddess with three eyes, right? The left eye, which represents desire, the right, which represents action, and the center, which actually represents knowledge. She has 9 avatars, which actually symbolizes women's power of adaptability. So if you really look at it from that perspective, and if I were to now put this back into the PR profession, I think our profession actually needs a lot of finesse to do the job right. And to listen attentively, to use the sixth sense, sometimes to read between the lines, to be able to start a conversation from where you left it, to join the dots, multitask, use of emotions, patience, and above all, conviction to make things happen. I think these are some of the qualities that make women reach the top when it comes to PR. And it also makes women more desirable for public relations as a profession.
Right, right, absolutely. Those are some very interesting points, Neha. Thank you for pointing them out for us. Stuti, if you can give us a little bit about your views, you know, women and PR professionals and how they are facing it and what works in their favor, what has worked in your favor.
Yeah, so as I think everybody sort of mentioned, but I founded Crosses when I was 23, and we've always had an all-women team actually. We are a boutique firm, and you know, occasionally we may have had one or two men, but I think women per se, especially at least in our field of work, has really worked very, very well. We are better leaders. That is something which I can say, because if you look at the women leaders across the world in terms of COVID and how they've handled, you know, most recently I have actually in COVID, I founded a company, another initiative. It's a community called the Women Inspiring Network. And in 100 days, we've reached a 10 million reach. And it's all about inspiring women. So I would like to say women can really inspire each other. We can really motivate our team. Of course, we are very good at multitasking. We are extremely creative. Resilience and perseverance are some of the qualities which we have. And if you look at, you know, like a scenario, everywhere women have really excelled. And I'm really, really happy that your forum is addressing and talking about the subject.
Right, right. Great. So, you know, another very interesting observation, we see a lot of shows on the Netflixes and Amazon Primes these days, and films also. A lot of popular shows where we see women as PR professionals, be it Sex and the City, be it Mad Men, or be it the Working Moms. We see PR professionals being portrayed, if I may say so, in a very sexy and glamorous avatar, right? So, what is the secret behind all this? Is it actually, so much about glamour, or is the grit behind the glamour often glossed over? Tell us a little bit about, what happens behind the stage. Lavang, if we can start with you.
So, I think this question is something that we should not even be bothering about.
Right.
Because these programs that you're referring to are all produced by men. Okay. And
yes,
it's mad entertainment.
Absolutely.
It's mad entertainment.
Right.
There's so much more to women in business.
Absolutely.
And beyond, what we do. So when you look at it, the woman has been able to crack the glass ceiling, That's
Absolutely.
more important. There's grit, there's determination, there's willpower. You heard the panelists speak about what makes it so successful for us. I think it's just a matter of a joke or amusement, and we should just ignore it and move ahead in life.
And I think we make every role that we take up glamorous.
Yeah, and it's not about glamour. It's about the grit, the expertise.
Absolutely.
And let's forget the PR women and let's forget these programs for a moment.
Right.
I just want to refer to two women who come to my mind right now. Think about Sheryl Sandberg, or think about the New Zealand Prime Minister. That lady, Jacinda Ardern, she's giving lessons of leadership to everybody in this world,
Right.
So I think when you look at these programs and whether they are about PR professionals and glamour and good looking and fashion, of course it all goes with a woman, but also what goes most importantly is what's behind that woman and how she makes things move around her.
Right.
I think that's what I'd like to say. Every leader is reacting differently to the way things are in today's situation. And just look at the New Zealand Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
And she's also playing a role on the stage, which is the world. So let's forget this, Tasmai, and I'm sure my co-panelists will agree. What you see on TV is not reality. There's a lot more that goes behind it.
I'd like to add, sometimes they use the word glamour just because, we dress in a certain, we dress more formally or in a confident manner. And, we all need to feel good. Why should we not feel good about how we dress up or how we present ourselves, So, I've had the good fortune of attending the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit, where you had the Sheryl Sandbergs and the Ariana Huffingtons and Indra Nooyi. And the way they talk about success and confidence and the C positions, that is something which we all should be striving for. Absolutely. And as Lavang just mentioned, look at about the leaders who've actually fought the crisis which we are all undergoing. That really proves. So why should we be objectified?
Absolutely, that's a very fair point. Yes. Yes. Now, any other myths or any other notions that are there about women professionals in public relations that need to be busted? Anything that you would want to point out, Gauri?
Yeah, I think like Stuti rightly said that we may dress, the part or look glamorous, and then that is what gets the center stage. When the thinking hat, or when you're actually trying to do PR, is actually clever marketing. Look at, even the social media mix that you may be managing or whatever. You have to fit into the different roles in your headspace, in your look, in your appearance, as well as your demeanor, as well as the results at the end of the day you're driving. And I think people sometimes are not aligned to that part of it. Even marketers sometimes tend to devalue PR per se, in the marketing mix. So I think there is that spotlight on PR where I think we have the seat near the CEOs now. For all our clients, we actually may hear, or we may be instrumental in devising an entire plan which will have a business impact. People need to talk about that in PR.
That's right.
And it shouldn't be about just women or glamour. It should really be, is PR shifting the needle? Is PR bringing the business buck in, And we are shifting the needle. There have been campaigns even in the pandemic where our client has said the number of swipe ups we were able to get for a beauty brand made all the difference and got the toll back into the business was moving. So I think that's the thinking that needs to come.
That's right.
Gauri, I agree with you totally. It's a journey which has been redefined, and it gets redefined almost every day, Tasmai. And when you look at it, there's confidence, there's campaigns, there's work that's being done across this industry, which definitely makes us stand out. And the last 4 months or the 120 days of COVID, where I think most people have worked from home, has shown to various other functions how integrated this entire PR industry is and how it makes things happen beyond their expectations. And for women today, we are definitely seeing the change, you know. We're all evolving and we've enabled a positive environment and we've fostered that kind of a situation for ourselves that we are, I think, inspiring everybody around us as well. And the men, of course, partner with us in it, but I think the women just stand out.
Yeah, yeah.
Neha, women
sorry, yes, Stuti, please.
I mean, I'd like to just add, women come up with better strategies. I mean, there have been a lot of stories also in the media, not just in India, but worldwide, about women trying to do the balancing act, work-home balance. We all are working from home. I have an all-women's team. And, you know, we have been more efficient than ever before. I mean, I have founded another business in lockdown and I have a 4-year-old. So, you know, it's like we can multitask, we can put everything in compartments and reach a certain goal. We are very, very driven.
Right, right. Neha, you would want to add to it?
You know, I mean, I hear all my panelists. I think the problem is in understanding of PR as an industry. I don't think there are very many people who understand what does a PR professional actually do. And it's not too long ago, you know, when I used to interview people, and especially freshers who would come, and the first question I would ask them is, what is your impression of public relations as a job? What do you think you will do? And they would all respond saying meeting people and going to these high profile glamorous events. Now that is the image that people have, and that is the image that you actually see, which gets portrayed in each one of the shows that you're talking about, whether it's on Netflix or on Amazon Prime. I guess kudos to all the women who make it look so effortless, is all I can say. So yeah,
that's right.
One on us.
Right. So, you know, the next thing that would be interesting to discuss, like, you know, like every other profession that women are, I'm sure there are some roadblocks and there are some hurdles that a lot of women like you guys have overcome to reach where you are today. So, you know, you have overcome a lot of hurdles in your journey to reach success point that you are in today. So if you can tell me a little bit about the struggles also and the roadblocks that you have overcome, what are they? Are they gender specific or are they in general, you know, perils of the profession? So what are the roadblocks? You know, we talk about the pluses and we talk about all the good things. We should also focus a little bit on, you know, the problems that you have overcome. So if we can start with you, Stuti, this time.
So I founded Crosshairs when I was in Bombay and I was all of 23. I worked with Ogilvy for a year and I was in the technology team. And actually at that point of time, I really thought I was in the wrong profession. And I had a family friend who says, why don't you start off? And I said, you know, isn't it too early? And he said, and, you know, and I thought to myself, you know, okay, I have nothing to lose. Maybe I can go back to a job in 6 months if it doesn't work out. So what I feel is, and when I've gone for these leadership programs, I feel mentoring is really important, which is lacking in our country. Of course, now I can see much more awareness in the last few years, but I'm talking about maybe 10, 15 years back when that knowledge was not there. So today, someone sitting in tier 2, tier 3, or even a smaller town should have that aspiration. My parents live in a small town in India. And every time I would go back for vacations, I would be like sitting and telling people, okay, you know, this is what you can do in the PR profession. So the knowledge and awareness has really changed over a period of time. And when I was starting off, everybody kept saying press relations. And that time, lifestyle PR had not opened up. So that was one of the first few clients we handled were lifestyle, which were nightclubs, hotels, fashion brands in India. Fashion weeks had just started. Then we launched the luxury brand Hermes in India. So I'm just saying, so I've seen the industry also evolve over a period of time. And maybe when we were starting, there was this really whole connotation of press relation or men being in the thing or, you know, press officer or something. So I feel that has really changed. And now people lay much more importance to strategy, storytelling, you know, so the industry has moved. And I think if we all have our dreams and goals in place, we'll all reach success. I mean, that's one guidance and, a thought I'd like to tell everybody.
Right, right. Gauri, what are your takes on the, negatives, on the roadblocks, on the hurdles that you have overcome in your journey to wherever you have reached today?
So, actually, when Stuti rightly said that, when PR started, I think it was not even understood as a profession or taken seriously as a function. Plus, I think personally for me to take it onto the next level, it was the personal and professional balance to make it into a career where I could today be a leader in this space, in the luxury domain. We started working on luxury brands when it was all nascent in the country. And that time, I think they were not paying as much, or I think there were fewer outlets. There were no Vogues. There was nothing. This is actually 16 years ago when we had Bulgari in the country. And today, I think the landscape, apart from the landscape changing, the personal and professional balance that people have been able to bring into the workplace has been fantastic, starting with our organization at PR Pandit. In 2004, work from home, it is not just in the pandemic, but we have offered that, myself included. I was having my baby at that point, and since 2004, I've worked from home literally a lot of days, and that has been a good balance that helped me become a lot more agile at balancing both roles and still doing what I do with that detail and with that work from home, not being a hindrance, but being an asset. And today we practice flexible working hours to allow team members to beat the rush hour traffic, manage essential chores, introduce work from home for women who may need to care for an elderly at home or situations that may arise. I think that empathy that has come about, and that has been a hurdle that has been, something that we've been able to overcome. And it's been a personal journey as well. So I think today, every professional company to not look at women like, oh, okay, they're going on maternity leave, I don't know whether they're going to come back or not.
Yes.
But create that environment where you're able to get that. I think you will get a lot more out of that person, not just commitment, but the passion that they have and that you will be able to fuel. So I think that is when we will be true winners in being good employers.
Right. Davang, if you would want to elaborate a little bit about your journey and hurdles that you have overcome in the way.
So I think a couple of things that have got mentioned, and I think most importantly is the work-life balance. Right. I've also been working for over 2 decades now, and I do remember initially, and especially when you're when you have a family, when you have a child, you really wonder how you're going to progress in your career. And PR is a demanding career, not just today. It was like that many years ago as well. But I think most importantly is that we are lucky and we are privileged that we've had colleagues, mentors, and employers who supported us through it, especially our families. I recall when I had my child, and he's a young man today. I had so many thoughts in my mind about quitting and sitting at home for a couple of years. It's thanks to my and we did not have internet the way we do today, where work from home becomes so much easier. I could actually come in late and leave early. I could leave at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go look after my child at home. And I think that's become a reality today. And that work from home and support is much better. I recall reading somewhere, and I don't remember exactly what this research was, but even today, only 44% of women feel that, work-life balance is there in place. It's a tough challenge. It's very easy for us to be sitting in this forum and discussing it. I'm sure everybody goes through it on a day-to-day basis. You could be a CEO of a company. You could be a trainee account executive. You could be a domestic helper. Every woman faces her own problems, So that's the biggest challenge I think that you have. And it makes you want to give up your career and go back to your child at home. The other things I think that we face in terms of obstacles, and I think your previous panel also discussed that quite a bit, is the opportunities for men and women, is the equal pay situation. It's the way people get treated. We all live in our own cocoons, and we all live in our own ecosystem, and that's what we look at. But you've got to look at it far wider. It is all not about you and the people that you work with. When you look at women in general, there are loads and loads of obstacles they go through. And what Gauri you just mentioned, or Neha mentioned earlier, about people would come and think, it's going to be a high-flying event. There's a prominent celebrity. Even today, a lot of people don't understand PR. I don't think my mother-in-law understands today also what I actually do. She may feel very proud, and I feel so happy that, though I live with my husband's family, at least today my mother-in-law is like my mother, where she's proud of what I do and how I hypertask and manage everything. But there are all these youngsters who want to be in PR, and especially because I have a 19-and-a-half-year-old, all his friends, especially the girls who work there, who study with him, they want to actually talk to me and ask me, how do we actually make a PR career? And I think that's where the challenge is. People need to understand it's not about those interviews and those press releases. So I think the biggest hurdle, if you ask me, for us today is to explain to people what PR is and what is the value it actually brings in.
Right, right. Those are very interesting points. And when you mention that, it's not just about the press releases and these meetings, I would come to something which is more contemporary, the times that we all are in. And every marketer right now is looking at sales. That is one thing that we're trying to work on. We're trying to come back to a sustainable top line. We're doing our best to sell more. So like Gauri mentioned, in a previous question, that, it is also about sales and promotion, and it is a part of marketing. The PR is a part of marketing mix. So if you can, also to help our viewers understand that, what is the role of PR in, increasing sales, or, adding to the visibility of a certain brand that you're working with, or how does it add to the, financials of the company? We can start with you, Neha. You're on mute. You have to unmute your system.
While she's unmuting, Asma, may I just say?
Yes,
please.
please.
PR have been part of marketing. Soon marketing will be part of PR, I can assure you that.
That's the way to go ahead. Stuti, if we can do then.
PR as an industry has really evolved.
Right.
So one thing which I feel is what we did 10 years back and what we did 5 years back and what we're doing now has evolved. Like digital storytelling has like everybody's now looking at online and digital PR. Print media in our country has faced a lot of setbacks in the recent times, in the last few months especially, I mean, which all of us are aware, but digital has taken a momentum. So it's a field which is ever evolving. So we have to keep pace with it and keep increasing our knowledge base. So we're very good researchers, and we have to be very, very creative and attention to detail in the field. What I also feel is like we've launched a lot of campaigns during COVID for a client where which have been online. So I think, for a beauty client, we launched a campaign where they were not present online, but then they went into e-commerce and online sales through social media. And that really took a lot of spike, because brands who have retail spaces in expensive malls are facing a lot of setback. So, how brands are doing business have also come from strategies which have been pushed by PR and social media and digital storytelling. So there was another brand of ours, which is also in the hotel space. So they were looking at these apartments which they had. And, that side of business was never really looked at. But they said, how can we make it workstations, because we'll give them internet, people can log in there. So everybody's following work from home. So, we have to develop strategies, which then it's like a go-to-market strategy with which they'll evolve themselves. So we become an extended arm of a client's team to sort of strategize on their business plans also in many, many cases.
Right. Neha, I'll just quickly sum up the question for you. I was talking about the present times that we are in and how marketers are looking at, getting the maximum out of their business to promote sales, to promote, getting more customers on board. And so, how is PR adding to, getting customers more visibility, more clients on board, and how is it adding to, get the financials better?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, the role of PR by the day is becoming extremely more important in the entire marketing mix. This pandemic, of course, has led to companies looking at rationalizing their budgets. And when they're looking at rationalizing their budgets, while a lot of the companies are looking at cutting the PR budgets, but I also know of a lot of companies who are actually looking at increasing the PR budgets. And that's because they believe that in these times, if a company has to go out and be able to tell authentic stories about themselves, it's only through PR that they can do it. I think one of the big issues that the PR industry has had is us being able to demonstrate real measurable goals of the work that we do for our clients. And I think with some of our clients, we are being able to demonstrate business impact. And I can talk about one of my clients, which is Philips. We do some work for them on sleep apnea machine. And this is specifically whatever communication is done, it's done through PR. We've been able to show direct benefits of PR to the business. And I think when we are able to do things like these, the value of PR goes up by many folds. And I think in today's day and times, when a customer is becoming extremely choosy about what he wants, his attention span is limited, and he also wants to make sure that he is really looking at what he needs. In such times, the way a brand communicates, what the brand says, all of this becomes extremely important. And I think there is nobody in a better position to do it than the PR experts. So that's how I feel about the whole changing dynamics when we're talking of the PR industry vis-a-vis the other industries in the comms.
Right. Gauri, over to you. You deal with more niche brands, and where I'm sure, like Neha rightly mentioned, measurement is a very important dynamic in business today. So if you can tell me a little bit about the way you look into it, and how is PR becoming an inseparable part of marketing mix for brands these days?
I think Neha rightly said that, PR is more credible than a lot of other platforms. It's real. And if you're authentic storytelling, whether it is, for Uniqlo, we reached out to a whole lot of real life influencers where the campaign has actually been done by PR. So we're kind of clever marketing, and we're kind of a role where we are playing more than just traditional PR. You're also looking at the right collaborations. So we could be instrumental in forging the right collaborations, like we did for, say, Masaba and Clinique, where we took out it was a nice bag that we took out where lipsticks were free with it. And the sales of those lipsticks just went up 3 times over because, it was the right collaboration at the right time. And even today, for whether it's a brand that is niche and looking at a curated audience, you have to think of how you would engage them virtually. For Estee Lauder, during the lockdown, we did a virtual event, an unfolding of it where everybody participated. And more bloggers sort of wanted to get onto it, editors wanted to get onto it and understand the concept or the reveal. So I think that we have to get clever with our ways at all times, come up with strategies which are unique and tailored to that specific audience. So I think that rare mix and being authentic and real are 2 important things one has to bear in mind. And I think you would have a winning campaign if you stick to that. And like Neha rightly said, never before has PR been more important than it is today, because you're reimagining your messaging. You are recreating and talking and being relevant to current times and situations. So that's an important function. So you have to alter your plans and look at it with a renewed and a reimagined post-COVID world as well. So that's what is important.
Right. So, we discussed so many serious things and how the journey has been and the role of PR. I have a fun question in mind. When it comes to any other profession, we talk of equal pay and, whether women are being given their due, etc. So, but PR is a profession where we see only women leaders, most of them, most CEOs are women, most founder of the major PR brands we have in the country are led by women. So is there equal opportunity for men in this profession? How do we place men in this profession? Do you have any requirement when you're hiring them? How does it work? We can start with you, Lavang. I can see everybody smiling to that question.
I don't think there's a need to discriminate, Tasmai. Yes, I think there's equal opportunity for men, of course. And it's about the best person getting the job. whether it's men or women.
Absolutely.
And I've been lucky, and I'm sure a lot of other women on this panel will agree.
Right.
We've had some very capable, interesting, supportive men in I'm sure, as employers, as colleagues, as friends. So I think it's misunderstood that it's more about women. Yes, there are more women in PR for specific reasons, but that doesn't mean that we don't have enough men there as well. And when you look at it, PR is something which when we started the panel, I said, for women, they behave like PR people in everything that they do. And I think the men can just learn more from us. So when I interview a person, it's not about getting a woman or a man in.
Right.
If you look at what they bring to the table, their capabilities, their skill sets, the experience, and that's what determines it. And I work in Ad Factors PR, where there is enough men as compared to women as well.
Of course.
The agency definitely looks as women being the epitome of efficiency, sincerity, what we bring to the table. And I would never discriminate between a man or a woman if I was hiring.
Absolutely. Of course, of course. Stuti, to you, this is more on a lighter note, not that, we are out there to discriminate, but, we see a lot of all-women teams. So, just trying to understand.
All-women team, I think, not by choice. She would also hire men.
Yeah. It's not that I haven't. Maybe they've not stuck around because we were too many women, and if there's only one
possible.
But so what I'd like to say, I think there are equal opportunities for both men and women. We should not look at it, and maybe actually I'm actually getting really educated by you and the other panelists, but I feel maybe in certain sectors the ratio may change. Like in the PR field, let's say, in certain sectors in the industry, maybe you may have more men, and in certain segments in the industry, you may have more women. And in general, I don't have the numbers, and maybe you all can tell me, but I would say it's an equal ratio. I mean, that's the sense I get when I go for any PR event, which is an industry event where I've even spoken at some of our industry events. I always feel it's a balanced approach. Or even when awards where people are being felicitated, or any of our industry events, I see as many men as many women, So I've never felt that there are more women and less men.
Right. Neha, if you want to add into that.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much about the gender. I think it's more about the skill set, right? And if there is somebody who possesses the same skill set as women have to offer, then why not? By all means. And I also feel that a woman thinks differently, a man thinks differently, and I think it's the combination of the two which actually make every organization sail through, just as it makes every relationship sail through, right? So I think you need a good balance between men and women in every organization.
Right. Gauri, do you think for like luxury, it's the women who, carry on the business better, or, they have a finer taste for such things? Anything that interesting anecdote you have from your end?
I think the panelists have already said that I don't think it's a gender specific thing, but yes, women do tend to have an eye for detail.
Yes.
When you talk about PR, you would see more women for sure, even on the client side, not just the agency side. And that would hold true, but I think the balance is most important in every organization. And I think it shouldn't be a gender-based thing, but yes, even our leadership team is, only women, but I think women make great leaders, and I think it has to be about what you're good at doing. And yes, PR as a profession does see women excel more at whatever we're chosen, including in luxury, the eye for detail.
Right. Yeah. We have questions coming in, and so we have one of our listeners who's asking that, is there any difference in managing client expectations and deliverables? And he's also mentioning that it doesn't matter if a woman or a man is handling the account. He just wants the question answered that, what's the difference between client expectations and deliverables? Anybody can take it off. Any of you.
Depends on your client, honestly. A lot of clients are, even if the deliverables are met, they would want that extra 1-2 things, and they would never sort of give those kudos. And there are certain clients who would actually listen to you, and because there's so many clients who ask for advice and they wouldn't follow through, and they would make you into like, yes, these are the deliverables, stick by it, and not be attuned to market reality. Like we were mentioning earlier, a lot of our publications are shut currently, and it is a unique time. You have to navigate it with creative ways or unique opportunities. So I think the deliverables have to be matched as per the situation as well. And if your client is understanding, you can get them to understand this situation. Then you will never have a debate over deliverables. So that's constant debate that we PR professionals face on. If you have agreed on the deliverables, some clients can really hold you to the neck with it.
Absolutely. So
my advice, my advice is understand what your client thinks is a deliverable.
Right.
That's very, very critical. And like Gauri said, expectations and deliverables, some clients have different meanings to it. But if you're able to manage that expectation right, your deliverable will always be achieved. So it's important to first understand what we think a deliverable is.
Set the expectation.
And it can be tangible and intangible in our industry.
Absolutely.
Set the expectation right, educate it. In fact, just today, I remember my team was discussing like a whole deliverables and scope of work, and I said, you guys have to handle it. You have to see what is possible and what's not possible, and set the expectation right. I mean, the moment you do that, I think we have clients where since we started and they've been with us since then. So it's about forging a relationship also with the client. We have to also understand where they are coming from. So it needs to be, and they need to understand where we are coming from.
Right. Neha, over to you.
I think this whole thing about what the client expects of you and what you eventually deliver, it's one of those chicken and egg things in my view, always.
That's right.
And I think the point is that, where we as communication specialists falter is we don't lead the relationship. We take it as a diktat. A client has asked us to do something, we will do it. A client has asked us to deliver on something, we'll deliver on it, right? But the fact of the matter is, there are many things when you're working on the deliverables and when you're going through the journey, there are many things that come to your mind of you wanting to do it differently, or does this even make sense? Does this even make sense for the brand? And I think the starting point is, are you really seen as a consultant, or are you seen as somebody who's going to take orders and deliver? And if you're seen as a consultant, usually from my experience, this question of what the client asked for and what you delivered does not arise. So if you are leading the relationship, you are leading the relationship. But if you're not leading the relationship, it is about the client asked you for this and this is what you deliver.
And it's about consulting and informing them, that's what you say, because they are reasonable too. And that's why I said, first understand what do they mean by deliverable. Have that informed conversation.
There is another audience question. It's from Bhavika Dasani, who says, hi, this is a great session. How should one apply for a job in the PR firms? What criteria do they look at? This is a very direct question about job opportunities. Any of you, please take it up.
I think the easiest thing in today's world is tweet to the person you want to apply a job to. And if you do it right, you will definitely get an interview or a window.
Right. So the message is quite clear out there for Bhavika. You can reach out to any of our panelists here as well. Any of you want?
Nowadays are very accessible, Tasmai.
Absolutely.
Thanks to the social media, yes.
Yeah, I mean, reach out to any one of us for sure. As you just said, reach out to any one of us. We're always looking for people who are committed, who've got something different in them. We're always looking for people who've got a fire in their belly. So if it's the lady who's asked the question, if it's you, by all means, please approach any one of us.
Right. There is another question from Anjita Chaube, who asks, how will public relation as an industry change post-COVID-19? Though we have covered various angles to this, but still, if any of you want to add to Anjita's question.
I think one of the things that I have been feeling is that, post-COVID, I think the consumer is going to be extremely selective about what he buys, what he consumes. and how he consumes it. That's one. And I think the consumer is going to be, when you're talking about brands, he's going to have an extremely watchful eye on how a brand is communicating and what does the brand really stand for. And I feel purpose, if companies don't have it defined, they probably need to do it now. But every consumer is going to look at what a brand stands for and how does a brand engage with a consumer, which is beyond just selling the product that they actually make. It's really about being able to engage with the consumer on a more purpose-driven sort of a wavelength. And I think that will become extremely important post-COVID.
Gauri, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think resilience, like she's saying in Neha right now, the next normal will require all companies to reimagine their business model, as they return to full speed. So relying more on e-commerce, rebuilding their capacity in that sense of it to recover revenue rapidly. And I think rethink the messaging to the consumer, be attuned and sensitive and be real. I think people can really decipher that right now, and they are being a lot more cautious. So I think even brands are dictated by what the consumer sentiment is feeling right now. It's not possible to function in the silo of a brand bubble you want to create. So I think it's important to really reimagine and rebuild as per that and accelerate digitally. So
See, our business is also very, very dynamic. So it's also time for us to reset ourselves and, as Gauri said, re-strategize. And of course, a lot of focus would be on online and digital going forward, especially from our industry point of view.
Right. Lavang, do you want to add to that? Yes.
So PR becomes far more relevant, I think, post-COVID.
Right.
And it becomes, if I may say, firms and even communications people will become far more stronger.
Right.
Communications always has been, in a lot of ways, part of the C-suite. And today, when you look at it, with the pandemic, things are changing. And digital integrated is something that had already happened, it's been adapted, but becomes far, far more relevant today. And when you talk about various ways that we are functioning in, it is going to be the micro-influencers and the nano-influencers, because like Neha said, people are going to be really watching. The consumer is going to be really, really careful. And PR is extremely credible, but one will obviously follow certain people that they have trust and confidence in. Digital is emerging in a big way, and that's the future. Now it's for us to use PR as a communication tool, which will innovate, reinvent, at the same time be sensitive in the way the communication
That's very important.
This recession is going to give us opportunity. A lot of us are seeing growth, and I think that is what PR's most critical role is.
And just to add, while we created our own product, in the last 100 days, we've had like a 10 million reach. So that says it. Like we've had more than 200, 300 people on our platform, women who've contributed. So, how we do things, re-strategize, it really makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a business which sort of took shape during a lockdown. So, it's about how we approach things differently would matter, like keeping the world scenario in mind.
Right. So, before we close this amazing session, there is one thing we asked mostly all our panelists, for next generation, the ones that are trying to get into your shoes, trying to do the job as well as you are doing it. So I'll come to each one of you and ask, the top 3 things that you would ask youngsters to prepare themselves with, the few things that they need to keep in mind if they have to excel in this profession. And what is it that you need in you where you understand, that working in PR is your calling? So if we can start with you, Gauri.
I think in this industry, you have to be a sponge. Like you said, it's a very dynamic industry, and you have to be a sponge at all times, keep your eyes and ears open, have a pulse on the now, what is moving, because that's when you would be able to tailor a program which will be right for your client or your brand. So at all times, number one would be to just be a sponge. And the other would be to learn to juggle, with your time, because especially in an agency, we are constantly bombarded by requests, and you have to manage your workload and your expectations of your clients and define them. So I think learning to juggle and hone that skill set for sure. And I think communication, thinking outside the bubble, not outside the box, but really outside the bubble. We tend to think in these silos of like, okay, only luxury. No, currently I feel luxury is where necessity ends, luxury starts. So it's about basing it and looking at it with a very, very different lens, or maybe wellness is luxury. So I think just thinking outside your bubble and enhancing how to learn and write and communicate better.
Right. Lavang, there are so many friends of your son who are already asking you this question.
Yeah.
But yes.
For me, I think it's an ever-learning mindset.
Right.
Never stop learning and network and stay connected. Be curious, ask questions, be research-oriented. You have to, back yourself with data. And most importantly, learn to listen and reinvent yourself.
Absolutely.
I think listening is the biggest trait that one needs to have to be in this industry. These are the three things. And of course, what Neha mentioned in one of our conversations, you have to have fire in your belly to achieve. If you don't have that, don't come into this industry.
Right.
So fire in the belly, passion, perseverance. And you have to know to be attention to detail in terms of knowing what's happening globally as well as in your own country. Like you can localize things or you can go global. So an attention to detail and research and creative thinking is what will really help you succeed in this field.
Neha.
I think the most important thing is that people should stay focused. I see so many people who join this industry, and after a little while, in a year or two, they say, "Oh, PR is not for me. I'm not enjoying it. I'm going to go." So, a couple of things. One is understand the PR industry well. It's not about fancy events. It's not about meeting people. So, get your understanding of the PR industry really well. Second is stay focused. And third is, PR is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. It is amongst the top 5, right? There will be a lot of hardships in the way, but that's going to happen in every other profession. So if you're going to give up in the middle thinking, I am done with this and I'm going to pick up something which is easier, I don't know if there's anything else which is easier. You know what I mean? So I think stay focused, fire in the belly, and know what you're getting into is very important. The rest of it can be taught. Everything else can be taught.
Right. So I would quickly want to tell all our viewers here that you can take the conversation offline. You can tweet to our panelists and you can talk to them directly on our social media pages. But there are some more questions which is there in the question answer session. So I'm sure all of you guys can take that offline. As you all said, you can send your CVs as well. So whatever works. So, but yes, since we are not have the luxury of a lot of time here, I would pass it on over to you, Khyati. And before that, thank you, Gauri. Thank you, Lavang. Thank you, Stuti. Thank you, Neha. It was a great session.
Thank you so much for having us on the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to my co-panelists. Thank you,
all the people who want to be in this industry, all our very best wishes. And I hope you will stick here because it's lots of fun and lots of hard work.
Absolutely. Over to you, Khyati.
Thank you, Tasmi, and thank you to the beautiful ladies with such amazing insights. I think the one key takeaway that I take away from this panel is the emotional intelligence that PR requires. And all of you ladies are doing that in your respective firms, implementing it in your respective firms. So thank you so much for that amazing conversation. And to all of you, you've heard it from the panelists itself. Tweet is going to be the next thing where you can connect, have these interesting conversations, or even apply for a job. You never know what opportunity will open up through that one tweet. So go ahead and keep tweeting to us. Our hashtag is E4M Women Achievers Summit and E4M Women Achievers Awards. We'd love to hear from all of you, and all those who are asking questions, do keep them coming. We have another interesting panel discussion coming up right now. So ladies and gentlemen, our next panel discussion is the media and PR, devising a clear and effective communication technique. As we all know, media and PR are the foundation of effective communication. More often, the relationship between the two was the most turbulent one, especially the journalist and the PR. However, new age media, digital media, penetration, also the social media, has changed the landscape completely. Now, the new age media and PR are intertwined and collaboration has become the key. Hence, what is clear and most effective communication technique for information sharing? We're going to find out from our panelists. So I hope all of you are ready and excited for this one because we definitely are. Ladies and gentlemen, in this panel discussion, I would like to invite our first panelist, Ms. Sukanya Chakraborty, Global Head, Corporate Communication VFS Global. Ms. Sukanya is a communication and marketing professional with 21 years of experience in global IT services, outsourcing, property consulting, interactive media, and community startup companies. Our second panelist for the discussion is Ms. Pooja Khan, Head Corporate Communication Panasonic, a communication specialist with 20 years of experience in corporate communications, public relations, governmental relations, and CSR. Pooja has also worked with multiple big shot companies across sectors like BFSI, FMCG, IT, and lifestyle. Our third panelist for the discussion is Ms. Seema Siddiqui, General Manager, Corporate Communication, Marketing Communication, Global Marketing, Schneider Electric, a communication specialist of 15 years plus experience in corporate communication and public relations. She is the Global Marketing Communication General Manager with Schneider's Electric. I'm sorry for that. Our fourth panelist is Ms. Rashmi Soni, Vice President and Head of Corporate Communications, Vistara. A seasoned communication specialist with career span includes orchestrating and driving communication strategies in information technology, telecom, and aviation industry. She has extensive knowledge and experience of managing PR strategies, media relationship management, corporate reputation management. And to moderate this panel, I have with us Ms. Josna Sharma, Senior Editor, BW Business World. So very warm welcome to all you beautiful ladies. Thank you for joining us for this wonderful discussion that we're going to have on devising a clear and effective communication technique. I'm gonna wait a few seconds for all our panelists' video to be switched on by our host. Till then, let me remind all of you, keep tweeting to us your comments, suggestions, questions using our hashtag E4M Women Achievers Summit, E4M Women Achievers Awards. Really delighted to be the host for this first very edition of it, and welcoming all our panelists here. Josna, our moderator, is here, so I'm gonna leave the screen to you, Josna. Thank you. Request all of you to be a little loud when you're talking. The audio may not be extremely clear, so we request you to just be a little loud. Can I request the host to switch on all our panelist videos, please? And all those who are watching us on different platforms, we are reading all the comments. So if you have any questions for our panelists, go ahead and comment on whichever platform you're watching us on. All those who are watching us on Zoom right now, you know there is a Q&A box for you to drop in your questions. You have 45 minutes for the discussion. Josna, I'd like you to take it over.
Thank you so much. Should we just wait a few seconds for all the panelists to join?
I'm going to request the host to just check on the rest of the panelists as well. Till then, may I take the liberty to ask you ladies, how has the day been and how has your lockdown been on a personal front before we get into the professional conversation? Pooja, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as you can see, I'm back in office.
Wow.
I have been back in office for the last 2 months now, actually. Wow. And this is my 3rd month back. So the lockdown was very painful, I would say. I mean, though corporate communications, public relations, the kind of work we do is agnostic to you being in office or not being in office.
Yeah.
But just being back in office gives you a sense of routine and kind of gives you a better hold on things, I would say. So actually, I'm very happy to be back. I mean, any more work from home, I would have shot myself, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Sukanya?
Yeah, hi. So I think, I'm still working from home and we will continue for some more time. But as Pooja said, that the portfolio that all of us handle, um, it doesn't matter where you're working from, office or home, because you're always connected and you have to be connected because you're managing the company's reputation at the end of the day. So except for balancing home related work and office, rest was fine. Just the balance had to be maintained well.
Right, right. We're all trying to balance, right? The
Yeah.
professional and personal front right now, sitting at home. Rashmi, how has the lockdown been for you on a personal front?
Well, shuttling between the office work and the household chores is not easy, and especially for a PR professional, because I'm still to meet a single PR person who tells me that they were having some free time to catch up on some shows or anything, because I believe all of us are working like 14, 15 hours a day. So it's been really crazy, but yeah, that's life, and we are enjoying every crisis actually gives an opportunity to learn something new.
Right, and I think PR warriors are the crisis management warriors, I'm guessing, for all brands and companies that you all take care of. So this is most the crucial time for all of you. So Josna, I think Sima will join us in just a bit. Why don't you continue the professional conversation that we're here for, and I'm going to leave the screen to all you ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jyotsna Sharma. I'm a senior editor at Business World. And we've been given the topic of effective communication to discuss today.
Josna, I'm sorry, can I request you to be a little more louder? The audio is a little low, yeah.
Are you able to hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah.
So we're here to discuss effective communication, and basically in regards to the corporate sector, or when you look at a small company, small businesses and large businesses, communication plays such a key role. It could be, and it has various facets to it. It could be communicating about a new brand, a launch, about crisis management. It could be communication with your employees. It could be various levels. And I think the professional who is managing the communication, it is key for that person, that individual, to understand the techniques, to understand the tools, and so as to be effective. Therefore, what we're going to do is, while we're waiting, Seema's joined. All right, so let me start the conversation. Rashmi, why don't we start with you? So let's start with what is effective communication. Rashmi?
Why don't you go to the next panel? I think her internet is stuck.
Could we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So, in my 21 years of being a practitioner, I've understood that, for effective and clear communications, it is very important to offer, a very balanced version of the content or story. One that represents the right information and, of course, caters to the right audience. Very important, the information and the audience bit. Now, this will ensure that we, working for companies or brands, are therefore included in the right narrative that we are trying to drive, and also helps build, therefore, trust with media as well as the audience.
Pooja, can we hear from you?
Thank you, Josna. Happy to be here. A warm hello to my co-panelists and participants. So the topic we have today is very, very vast, and it has many, many levels to it. And again, I think all of us come with similar experiences here. But an acronym that I've been using for a bit, which helps me break down what I believe creates effective communication strategies, is PRECISE, where simply speaking, P for me stands for precise content for effective communications. R, of course, is the relevance, the key, and is the key. So basically, relevance to the current environment, relevance to your storyline, relevance to the organization, and totally has to be based on consumer insights to hence make it relevant. E stands for effectiveness. So if we have taken care of P and R, effectiveness does follow, as content is more likely to resonate with your target groups. If I have to take C, C stands for clarity and creativity, clear communications with all key callouts, creativity, especially when engaging on social media. I, for me, stands for impact, and without clear ROI and measurement, the effort itself is only superficial and will not cut ice with your management. So impact is really critical as another pillar of efficient communication strategy. S is for simplicity, like jargon-free communication. A lot of PR people say that, a lot of people do practice it. So it really makes it easy for people to understand and engage better. E, last but not the least, empathy. You know, the kind of, we all have high pressure jobs, irrespective of the current environment. We have high pressure jobs. We are answerable to the management, answerable to the media. So let's all of us be kinder and more respectful to each other. And as we go along building all this, the whole precise format of communication. So I think that's my 1 minute of introduction to the subject. Back to you, Josna.
Seema, could we hear from you on what, according to you, is effective communication? We started with that.
Hi, Jyotsna. Thank you first for having me here. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. And yeah, so thank you for having me here. See, actually, effective communication, I think, is a bit of a complex utopian ideal that all of us are striving to reach for. And there are two sides to it, which makes it more complex. One is, of course, I believe that effective communication is also the kind of communication or the conversations which we are having with a very key stakeholder for us, which is the media, right? So how we are communicating that with them in a meaningful sort of a way, how we are effectively aligned to their agenda, not their agenda per se, but the conversations happening. Yeah, so thank you for having me here. That's a very important thing, which we need to keep in mind as PR professionals. The other piece, of course, turns the whole thing on us as representatives of an organization and ambassadors of a brand. For me, I think what makes for effective communication is, like Pooja also stated, absolute conversations happening. I also believe that a lot of successful and effective communication is tailored around basic consistency. I think increasingly brands which are staying consistent in the clutter are standing out as effective. But I also believe that a lot of too much conversation and flip-flop, etc., is definitely distracting. So for me, consistency is a very important part of the entire effectiveness parameter.
Okay, so I think Rashmi is probably having trouble. She'll join back in a bit. Till then, let's move on to the next question, which I've been actually wanting to ask you all. During COVID, the last few months, what have been the specific challenges that you all have faced as communication professionals? That's one. And if you could tell us how you overcame them. So should we start with Sukanya?
Sure. So, COVID has been an extra, I would say an extra special situation for all of us. While, we are as communication professionals used to crisis and managing crisis, but COVID as a whole was a situation that, helped us relook at a lot of, things that we did the way we did. For me, of course, when I represent VFS Global, and you can understand that VFS works in the visa services outsourcing segment. which means it's directly related to the travel ecosystem. And during COVID, of course, travel is, one of the most hit sectors, and therefore, a lot of, travel related um, business, or I would say work, also stalled. And of course, we are also governed with a lot of government regulations, because we work with governments for the visa services. So we had to adhere to all the client governments we serve, and how they, and directives from their end. So, lockdown in a country was a different thing, but we also had to adhere, and we are still adhering actually to the instructions from the governments, for example. And that was very critical, and is critical even while we are restarting and reopening today. The other very important thing was, how do you keep, the audience, when I say audience here, the applicants or the customers, as we call them, engaged throughout this phase, because there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of, they always feel that. So for example, one example is, if suppose someone before the lockdown submitted their passports, for a particular visa application as part of that, there's a lot of anxiety regarding, where is the passport? There were a lot of these valid questions that kept on, we had to manage those kind of things. So again, getting into, making FAQs that helped our, customers understand, addressing each and every question that they had in mind through a series of communication. Again, like Pooja said, very precise, very concise, so that we could address what they wanted to know from us. And the most common question, of course, was, when will you reopen? Now, this was one of the most common questions that we faced all the last 3 to 4 months, and even we are facing as we slowly start resuming. Because one thing that our customers fail to understand is that, like I said, we are governed with not only the local authorities, but also with the client governments we serve. We work as per their directives. So even if we want to just open, we can't. We have to wait for instructions. So there's very small, these kind of information that meant a lot to the audience that we were talking through various channels. Of course, we went reactive on press. I mean, at this time, you don't have much to say to press. So we, took over the social media side of things, because that's where, there's a lot of information being shared. People are hooked onto it. They are 24/7 trying to look for updates. So that's where we went. We focused a lot on the digital side of things. Of course, employees was another part, the employee side of communication. I won't delve a lot into that, but that was critical, because working from home or transitioning to a work from home environment was a very, I would say, a learning or a different experience for all of us. So how do you keep the employees engaged during this whole process? The amount of, information that went to employees during this time for various things, be it, training programs, learning and development, related initiatives, the management speaking to employees, all that increased, because at the end of the day, we had to be a cohesive unit together, though we might be sitting in homes in different corners of the world. A lot of things we had to do. We had to relook and re-strategize the tone, like Pooja mentioned about empathy. Yes, we had to constantly bring in the empathy angle when we spoke outside to the external audience as well as internal audience. Empathy, so we took the 3 E approach: the empathy, engage, and educate, because each had a different kind of need of the hour. And of course, the strategy during the lockdown and when we were resuming, that had a clear demarcation, because from somewhere when we're addressing an anxious set of consumers or anxious set of customers, to bringing in the reassurance back to them that, soon we will travel again all together. So that kind of reassurance themes, etc., had to be built in throughout the narratives. So I'll keep it short at this.
So Pooja, what about at Panasonic? How was it?
Panasonic, everyone knows, consumer durables. So one of the biggest challenges during lockdown was servicing the customers. Your appliances kept breaking down, and if people did not have a refrigerator to store their stuff, or if the TV wasn't working, people were going crazy. So of course, a lot of backlash on social media we got. And there is no cookie cutter approach to this, because this pandemic has actually gave us a very different world and different environment that we are living in, at least our generation. Like, our generation never faced the world wars or anything. So or the 1972 war per se, our community. So it was like, it's nothing like anybody in an organization has dealt with before. And then you have extremely angry consumers that you have to deal with. So we had to very, very quickly get our act together, strategize, and get the stuff moving on the business and people front both. You have to remember something that, while a lot of companies are able to go under 100% lockdown and say, fine, it's 100% work from home, we could never ever do that, because we're a services company. We deal with B2C consumers on a day-to-day basis. We sell them products, and if a product is not working, it is our responsibility. So, working with DIY videos, I think the marketing team very quickly came up to speed and designed these DIY videos based on the conversations we were tracking on social media and seeing where the angst lies. So first, dealing with the consumers. Employees, as Sukanya rightly said, was very, very important part of this story, because the lockdown happened very, very suddenly, you have to remember. And people were coming to office till Friday, and suddenly on Sunday, you were like, you can't come to office from Monday, I mean, I had half my stuff in office, so it was very, very difficult. And keeping a positive mindset and getting people moving, motivating them to put their best foot forward every day, engaging your own team, even the team is like bitter, suddenly what do we do? And of course, media was super active, because suddenly there were more requests than we have faced in last 6 months in 2 weeks. Like, what's happening, tell us about it, how you servicing your customers, what's going on with you, etc., etc. So there was a lot that was going on there. So a lot of things have to happen, and we had to move very, very quickly, and accepting life how it is and moving towards it. So while April was full lockdown, I think May we decided to take baby steps and start opening the corporate office, start evaluating the manufacturing units, because you had to meet consumer demand. Suddenly there was a demand for air conditioners, there's a demand for large refrigerators, demand for large size TVs, and you had to get all your act together very quickly from supply chain and all of that. So I think broadly, these are the broad challenges that I've faced. So are you going to be asking later as to what we did to fix it, or should I continue talking about it for a minute more?
No, please go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, so I think, I love these acronyms, and I love creating these little stories for myself, and which helps me deal with what's going on. So actually, if I look back on what happened during that time, and along with one of my mentors that I was talking to, and he also helped me arrive at this whole centerpiece, that, what are the 10 commandments for communications during COVID times? And, we started following these 10 commandments, and this actually resonates even today for me. So I think the wider group might benefit in hearing about these simple 10 commandments. Keep culture at the epicenter of any communication. Every organization has a very strong culture. No organization is without a culture. So identify what that culture is, keep it at the center of your communication, lead from the front. All CEOs lead from the front. And I'm very proud to share here that our president and CEO was the first person back in office in May, first person back, along with the audit team and the admin team, to ensure that the office was up to shape for a week before he invited 10% of the population to start coming in, right? So lead from the front. Another thing which really works at this time, the second commandment was, I trust the people I know. So empowering all your head of the departments with the right communication, with the right toolkits, which also works as internal communications, to help them engage and communicate with their teams, right? Rather than one person from HR constantly sending out emails, you empower the rest and you do a pyramid-like structure. It worked for us. Communications must shine light on the force of good, but with due precautions. In times like this, and with no disrespect here, a lot of brands jumped into the bandwagon of CSR, suddenly buying masks and suddenly doing sanitizers. It's great, fantastic that you're doing it. But we also did a lot of stuff there around our factory area with our people around the areas where we operate. Having said that, we never spoke too much about it, because CSR is something which should be spoken about with little caution, and especially in times like this when employees are like, what about me first? You have to take care of them first. Then introducing regular business communications in COVID times was the fourth commandment. So as quickly as we could, we started rolling with regular business communication, at least starting off with strategy templates. Okay, what next? Medium term, long term. So people got engaged. They were busy. They weren't really thinking about other things, which was the misery of the times. Another thing, the fifth commandment here was predictive analysis. basically sharing and learning. So like you're learning from what's going on around you and quickly applying it to your business. There's no shame in copying, I feel, if there's something good. Sixth one, which is one of my favorites, is raw and real is the new tentpole. Like, keep your communication real, keep it true. And, even if even if your content or your communication or your EDM is not very fancy looking, as long as it's communicating the message in the speedy manner and reaching out to your TG, please move with it and keep it relatable. Seventh, frenemies and strange bedfellows. New collaborations make really, people you can't even imagine collaborating with, you work with. For example, I think Rashmi is not here, but I would love to mention this as an example here, which I saw in the industry, that, how the airlines industry really came together to start talking about and engaging their people. I think that was brilliant. The eighth one is again on CSR. I'm not going to repeat on that, but ninth is focus on feelings. It's always heart versus mind. Like, there's a lot of business stuff which we know we have to deal with, but it's all about your heart. Your heart has to be in the right place and the communication has to come from within. Empathy is the key here. And last but most importantly, speak only when you have something to say. So, matlab, we were getting a lot of queries, but we did address a lot of them. But there was some stuff which you would not comment on because it didn't really make sense for anyone, including the journalist writing the story. So, things like that. I think these 10 commandments I followed, and they really kept me on track, and it's still keeping me on track. So, I think I just wanted to share that with everybody.
So, Seema, over to you now. If we can hear about
Jyotsna, so I'd like to begin by contextualizing this answer of mine, actually. And I want to just refer to the Edelman, the trust barometer that they bring out every January. And the results that came in the 2020 Trust Barometer in January were fairly unsettling, because the trust quotient in a lot of institutions was not up to the mark. And also, there was a clear trust deficit that we saw even towards corporates. And that was actually a bit of a serious wake-up call. Not that we ever underestimated the power of trust and communication, etc., or even in the process of brand building, strengthening, but that was, like I said, a clear, a call to action. The interesting thing was that this year, Edelman also came up with a spring, trust barometer. They did a refresh because of, which itself tells you how dramatically the whole landscape changed with the coming in of the pandemic. So why I mentioned that was because, as an organization, we took a very clear stand as we stepped into March, because, globally, the pandemic had already hit in several parts of the world, and that influenced the decision making. But we decided that this was the time, as an organization, we believe, we believe in sustainability. It's very, very central to our functioning. And when we talk sustainability, we talk also in the same breath about a focus not just on profits, but on planet and on people. So given that, we took the call that over this period, we are not specialists here. The media is waiting to hear from specialists, healthcare professionals, etc. We are not the people to be commenting in this situation. So we took a conscious call of silence in that time. So there was very limited reaction, reactive media engagement also. Of course, media was reaching out, and we did reach out to our colleagues in media quite regularly, but that was merely to kind of understand how things were going during the time, but not really to share stories, etc. And I think that has been a huge learning from me, Jyotsna, and it was a tough call that we took, to as a brand, to stay silent. But it was a call which I feel very proud of. And I think we have now started engaging with the media in a proactive way. And I feel happy that, I spoke about the consistency in messaging when we began with our introductions. I think that adherence to the consistency in our commitment to, like I said, not just profits, but to people, planet, our consciousness that there's a world outside which is more important than just, the space of brand building, etc. I think I feel proud of that decision that the organization took, and that we kind of worked with over these last few months. And of course, it helped me also realize that whole, the findings that the Edelman Barometer threw, how critical, bridging this gap with the public in terms of trust is. Because going forward, we are talking about, corporate activism. More and more people are expecting brands to take a stand on social causes, etc. So it's not a unilateral space for us to navigate. There are demands being put on us, and if we are going to be conscious brands in this time, it is very important for us to understand what is missing and to kind of fix that. So I think, simply put, we stayed silent, and we are thankful for the silence that we kind of adopted. And we are now in a better position, we feel, to be able to engage with the publics again on critical matters. And we are going back to them now. But yeah, that was our strategy during the pandemic. And yeah.
So while we were having this conversation, I've been getting some questions from people so they want me to ask you, how will the PR industry and how will communication particularly change, if at all, post-COVID? So basically, in essence, learnings from the last couple of... So Seema, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sorry, Jyotsna, I missed the last part. So you said, how is communication going to change in the post-pandemic?
Yes, post-pandemic, if it changes at all.
I don't see it as a dramatic shift, Jyotsna. I think I see it merely as a bit of how do I call it? A recalibration, if I can put it that way. And even that recalibration is not it's not a significant one. I think that consistency in the brand needs to remain. If we are seen as a brand as having totally shifted our entire, our brand identity or redefining it, I don't think that's the purpose, that's the idea. I think what is more important is to remain consistent more than ever before today, to stay true to the brand identity that existed before the pandemic, and to reassure people that as a brand, your commitment to certain things doesn't change. So I don't foresee a dramatic change, but definitely, our priorities shifted. Communication was completely focused on our own people during these last 3-4 months. They were priority. Their safety was priority. Easy, quick access to information for them was priority. And of course, communicating with our customers was priority. So all that took the front seat, and everything else was, shifted aside. Gradually, of course, the other things are going to come up back again on the radar and in the priority again. And in terms of messages, etc., I think there's going to be greater cognizance, greater sensitivity to making sure we are completely aligned to what the world needs to see us talk about, rather than, making it a very self-focused kind of communication. But I'm hoping that most of the responsible brands already felt that way about their communication and PR strategy. So it shouldn't change much. But yeah, like I said, there is going to be greater responsibility in the way in which brands communicate, greater sensitivity, definitely.
So I can see that we've got Rashmi back. Rashmi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry, I missed the best part of the discussion. I'm really sorry, my computer crashed the wrong time. Yeah.
Don't worry. So
let me understand the flow of the conversation, and then I'll join in. I don't even know what question she was
asking.
asking.
Yeah. So we're basically, why don't you tell us a little bit about how, we were talking about the challenges faced during COVID over the past few months as a communication professional and overall, any learnings, and going forward, how would those impact PR comms in the future?
Well, Jyotsna, uncertainty is actually unnerving, and COVID-19 has been an unprecedented crisis where no reference or history was available to help people navigate. With most businesses badly impacted and the marketing budgets curtailed, the responsibility to promote the brand has come on own channels. But I think there is always a hidden opportunity when you are facing a challenging situation. It forces you to come up with creative solutions. Here, I would share some examples, and I'm not talking about the ideas that businesses come up with, but these are purely PR ideas. After the 2 months of suspended operations when air travel resumed, we launched 2 campaigns, Flying Feel Safe Again and Flyer Code. And these were to let people know that air travel continues to be the safest way to travel, and to ensure a safer flying experience. What are the measures that we are taking as an airline, and how customers can contribute to this mission as part of their shared responsibility. We promoted the work of our frontline staff who were putting the safety of our customers above their own. And when we announced the pay cuts, we knew that the CEO's mail to employees would definitely get leaked, and to avoid any misinterpretation of information, we proactively issued statements to explain the process and the impact on employees. We also told the journalists that our focus was to protect jobs come what may. So we kept the channels of communication with media open despite working from home, by being accessible to them all the time, and a lot of other things also. So basically a small dose of overdose of, I must say, communication has helped in clamping down much of the anxiety and address the doubts, and helped in amplification of the correct information. But unfortunately, if you're talking about the challenges, there were certain big developments which we couldn't promote the way we would have loved to do that. For example, the delivery of our A321, which is one of its kind in India, and we have just added this beautiful aircraft to our fleet very recently, like last week. So we would have made a big noise in normal times and organized FAM. But in view of the overall sentiment in the market, we issued a press release, that's about it. So this was a lost opportunity for us.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask Sukanya to now take this up. Do you think that there's going to be a change, perhaps, post-COVID?
So, Jyotsna, I don't think communication and its goals will change. That remains. What is the need? The objective of communication will never change. But what I think will change is the usage of platforms. What kind of platforms you would use to reach out to your audience. Re-looking at the messaging. Today, most brands, who are working with their set of customers, are putting the health and safety angle. That's an important thing, because the customers are looking for that. The assurance of safety, hygiene. So re-looking at the messaging. Possibly everyone has to do that in the wake of the days to come. And most importantly, crisis means fake news. I mean, there's a lot of fake information, fake news, incorrect information going around. So, how do therefore companies remain authentic and provide the right information, be more proactive in providing the right information that mitigates the emergence of fake news? I think these will fairly, I think, remain the way the next few years will see in terms of communication.
Right. Pooja, would you like to add anything to this?
Sorry. I think my esteemed colleagues have picked up nearly everything between Sukanya and Seema. Like, I absolutely agree with Seema. Consistency in terms of communication has to continue. You have to be consistent, though my view is that you have to be out there even more than you were in the past to show that level of safety and comfort to the consumer, especially for a brand like which is B2B and B2C both. So we play in B2B and we have a huge play in B2C as well. And I think we are probably known externally more for B2C. Right. So you have to be out there consistently. And taking on from what Sukanya said, while the communication strategy is not changing for me, I am still going to launch those products that I plan to launch. I am still going to launch my campaigns that I was supposed to launch. However, the platform and the way of doing it is going to change. Now, instead of doing my whole shebang, like consumer durables are notorious for very fancy press conferences. So instead of doing the whole shebang in a 5-star hotel where I would take people and do something interesting, I would be exploring a lot of very interesting virtual routes to launch my products. Probably instead of like in the past, it was like media separately, and this was separate event for consumers. But now I think it's all coming together with moderated events on virtual media. You actually, nobody's lifting their hand up and asking a public question, right? It's all being moderated. So I think that way, another thing, you save on a lot of budgets, I think, by doing one event, get everybody on board, do a shebang around it, of course, promote it heavily on social media. That's the second part of it. The third part, and this is unfortunately looking like the trend, and I'm very sad to see this trend actually, because I enjoy my print media to a large extent, but I think a lot of communication is moving from print to social. Even the advertising budgets and the digital marketing is becoming bigger than your traditional marketing. Your monies are moving to social media platforms. People are now spending more promoting, doing content partnerships with platforms like XYZ. We are doing a lot more content partnerships even with print media for their online platforms essentially. So I think the print media will take, I mean, if it recovers from this, I would be delighted. And I think it will take time to recover because people are still not getting the hard copies of their magazines or papers home. And that's going to continue through 2020. And that's actually going to be pretty much one of the nails in the coffin, which was there. So that's another third trend that I'm seeing here.
So now I think let's move on to the part where we discuss, any challenges that as PR professionals you all have had while dealing with the media. So I'll ask Rashmi to go first on this one. I love how Pooja is smiling and.
So I would not be focusing too much on COVID, but generally the specific challenges that we face in having communication activities and programs and campaigns. So as you all know, and I'm again giving examples from the aviation industry that I'm a part of. Aviation is a heavily regulated industry, and there are a lot of things that we can't do from a PR standpoint. An idea of a highly engaging fun activity for another organization, but if implemented in airline campaigns, that can put us in trouble due to regulatory guidelines. Moreover, like any service industry, airline PR is very, very consumer focused. And I think this is a challenge that is common to everyone in such organization. One lapse in service delivery, one disgruntled customer, one thread of negative conversation on social media can have a ripple effect and become a PR nightmare to manage. In aviation, specifically airlines, things like uncontrollable delays in departure or arrival, diversions due to bad weather, unruly passengers on board. It can be anything that can irk a passenger. And he may post something that is picked by media and then we are caught off guard. It may take some time for us to gather information and respond with facts. But I think eventually communication is the key to douse the fire. Pushing things under carpet or assuming that people would forget about it is a big mistake. So I think maintaining transparency and keeping lines of communication open is most important.
Pooja, can I come to you with this?
With all due respect to Rashmi, I think Josna's question was more around the relationships between media and public relations today.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
thought
thank you for addressing the elephant in the room. This, I think all of us have spoken about it more than enough now. And it is a sensitive topic. There is a lot of debate on about this today, and we all know it. I strongly believe it's a symbiotic relationship. You're a journalist, Josna, and we are PR people. And I'm sorry if I don't know, but I don't know if any of my peers have ever been on the other side. I haven't. I've been hardcore public relations from day one. And honestly, the kind of things I'm seeing recently, I have never experienced in the last 21 years. So it's a bit of a shocker. Maybe there's something we are doing wrong, or maybe some patients' levels are really getting low, or maybe we are not training our people enough. There could be multiple angles to it. I think the key thing here is respect and acknowledge each other's challenges and limitations. We all have terrible job pressures. I understand that a journalist has, I mean, I have lots of friends in the media, and I know the kind of pressures they have. And sometimes when they call me last minute and say, "Quote de do," I give it because I know they need it for the story. And similarly, they are very reciprocate towards me as well. So if I need something, it's very rarely someone said no to me, and it's been fair mostly. And you know, I think on a lighter note, I think someone in one of the recent posts did suggest that we should have rotation postings for media and PR folks. I think I read an article sometime back. I'm not too sure how that is going to work. But I think people who are listening to us, please do share your views on this in the chat box. This is a very live topic. And on another note, I strongly believe we as Comm heads need to take a lot of responsibility for this too. Because sometimes I think in pressurizing the PR agencies to get that story out, we kind of make those young kids run in the wrong direction too. And they, in order to please the clients, they probably piss off the journalists, sorry to use the word piss, but to do what to please the client. And I think that's something we also need to be a little cognizant of as head of comms. So broadly, I would say it's respect. Yeah, I think it's patience and respect. Let's just learn how to respect and be patient. Let's not go out to social media and start beating each other up, and let's try and solve it between our communities.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, as journalists, we're looking for, you know, stories, good stories to break news. And you're right, respect is the key. Seema, would you add something to this?
Jyotsna, first, I feel incredibly sad at the debates that I see happening in the social media space these last few weeks, and on and off, you know, someone flying off the handle, both sides really. And what I want to reiterate at this platform here today is that I feel infinite respect for the work that a journalist is doing. They're the fourth estate, really. And whether we like it or not, or I mean, whether they like it or not, the fact is that we depend on them for, you know, unbiased insights, you know, and not just us, practically everyone around us depends on them for that. I understand how tough that work can be, and I think there has to be this acknowledgement on our part that it's a tough job that they're doing. For them to, you know, to navigate between the space of you know, trust, which they tend to inspire in their roles, to navigate that space between trust and, you know, to do justice to the information that is coming in to them from various sources. It's a tough call, and they're making those tough decisions every day, taking those tough calls every day. So yeah, I think that we all understand, but we also understand that there is some amount of symbiotic relationship there. And it would be great if all of us could, respect that, really. That's all. And like I said, there's no taking away from the fact that there is great dependence, there's great trust in the fourth estate, in the media. We look to you for information, unbiased reporting. So yeah, just that.
Sukanya, what would you like to say on that?
So Jyotsna, as Seema and Pooja have both pointed out, there is no debate on the existence of both PR and media together. I mean, they have to work together, and it's a relationship, a symbiotic one. We are dependent on each other. I mean, while we have information that is useful for their stories, they look forward to us as well for the information. Now, coming to that, it's unfortunate that this is a topic today that we're talking about. But what I'll do is I will not talk about much on the challenges, but what I will dwell is, how or some of the things that I have done to engage with media better, because we understand that both are under pressure. While we have our own job pressure, media friends have their own pressures at their jobs. But a way to engage would be, many a times we forget that what may be interesting to them. We may bombard them with information, and to find something from that information for their readers is a challenge, because they have so much information with them. You're a journalist. I'm sure you're bombarded with information every day. So again, simplify what you want them to extract from that. Let them come back to you saying that if that works or doesn't work. Therefore, a bit of a strategic thinking around it, that what you want to share, why you want to share, and what is it that you want to achieve from that. So that's one. Second, I would say, the pitch. The pitch has to be interesting. We can't send a release and say, the release has been sent, guys, and then you WhatsApp, okay, we've sent a release. Can you just do a story? No, it doesn't work that way. So how do you make it more interesting from them? Because at the end of the day, the information that is picked up by media could be something that you never thought was worthwhile. They may pick out something from there that could be one of the hidden points in your whole release. And of course, establishing long-term relationships at the end of the day, because we shouldn't push journalists to an extent that they never contact you again. And this is something that I learned when I studied journalism, though I never ventured into the field, but I did my master's in it. So that was something that our professors always taught us, that maintain the long-term relationship. And that's even something that I keep in mind today, even after 2 decades of working in this field.
Jyotsna, I would like to add something to this. As the other panelists have rightly mentioned, that survival without each other is impossible, and cooperation and collaboration, harmony are the deal maker for both the parties. But then, the issue can be addressed by respecting each other's jobs, as said. And what we like to do is defining the rules of engagement that are agreed by both parties, leaving some room for negotiation depending upon the situation, of course. A simple example from Vistara that I would like to give is that we never ignore media calls or emails, and acknowledgement is the sign of respect, and we must do that. Yeah. Second, we provide them information with appropriate details, whether it is email responses or press releases or discussion on phone, but we don't try to influence their stories by calling them immediately after that. So honestly, when we give respect, we get a reciprocal response from most of the journalists that we work with. So, that is also important.
Right. So, you know what? We've run out of time. And so what we're going to do then is we're going to just wrap this up. This has been a very engaging discussion, and we've touched upon some key points. Of course, so I thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
So thank you very much to all our panelists and our moderator. Thank you so much for spending this time and speaking about this very important topic. And I hope all of you have enjoyed this conversation. If you have, please drop in a comment. You can use the chat box as well here on Zoom or any other platform that you're watching us on. Don't forget to leave us a comment. Keep tweeting to us using the hashtag E4M Women Achievers Summit and Women Achievers Awards. You can speak to us there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a power packed day, as we've mentioned. This is the last panel discussion in the summit. But again, something that is beyond our imagination, because here is something that we're going to talk about: the journey to perfection, inspiring stories of women leaders, how self-learning has improved the communication. And this, ladies and gentlemen, are the real stories of the women leaders who inspired millions through their hard work, leadership skills, superlative management, and mentorship. The pioneers and stalwarts on the panel will share their life journeys and learnings. So I hope all of you are geared up for this final panel discussion. We have an esteemed panel here for us. So I hope all of you are ready. I'm going to quickly invite our panelists up on the screen. First panelist for this session we have with us, Ms. Roma Balwani, Senior Advisor, Brand and Group Corporate Communication, Vedanta Limited. A veteran and specialist, Ms. Balwani wore several hats in her career spanning 25 plus years. A very warm welcome to you. We also have with us Ms. Anupama Chopra, Vice President Corporate Communication, Tata Teleservices. Ms. Chopra has 2 decades of experience in the communication industry. She has handled almost all communication business in Ad Factors. Our third panelist is Ms. Kiran Chaudhary, having 22 years as a PR and communications professional. Her experience, she has spent her first 11 years in India's first tech-only PR agency, which is 20:20 Media, and which is now 2020 MSL, and the others being an entrepreneur running 2 successful PR and marketing communication firms, Either Marketing and currently 80DB Communications. Our fourth panelist for the discussion is Ms. Amrit Ahuja, independent consultant, a PR consultant with over 25 years of experience, great journey from satellite TV to technology and internet. She has really enjoyed working on trends that cause an inflection point in the industry. Her journey from Z to Google and Facebook has been great to see how communication creates disruptive brands and businesses. Our fifth and final panelist for the discussion is Ms. Nandini Chatterjee, corporate communications professional, strategic thinker and team builder with rich exposure in media relations and crisis management. She also has 25 plus years of experience in PwC and other organizations, providing solutions to solve complex marketing challenges and drive growth. She has also worked with cross-functional teams to develop marketing strategy for meeting the business imperatives. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to our moderator for this very special discussion, Ms. Tuhina Pandey, communications leader, IBM, television journalism, business journalism, media training, presence and presentation, executive and leadership communications, marketing and corporate communication, digital communication, business intelligence, and analytics consulting, along with sales across industries. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an esteemed panel and such a stellar moderator for this discussion. I hope all of you are geared up to listen to these really inspiring real life stories. I hand it over to you, Tuhina. Very warm welcome to you. I'm gonna wait a few seconds for the rest of our panelists to also just come onto the screen. Till then, let me remind all of you, we are live on major social media platforms. In fact, all major social media platforms. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And all of you are also watching us on Zoom. So if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, do not forget to comment or drop it in the chat box. On Zoom, especially if you have questions for our panelists, do drop it in the Q&A box as well. Can I request our host of the Women Achievers Summit to kindly switch on the video for all our panelists? Brilliant. Welcome, ladies. Very warm welcome to you. Tuhina, I'd request you to start the conversation and the ladies can join in.
Absolutely, Kathy. What a pleasure, really. Just wanted to confirm if all my panelists are on before we kickstart the conversation. All right, I can see Nandini.
Hi.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Just waiting for others to join in as well. Hey, I can see Roma. Hi, Roma.
Hi, Tuina. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good to see you. Hi, Roma.
Good to see you.
Hi. Hi, Nandini. So for once, it's an all-woman team, is it?
My, I was just thinking about it. The we.
The we, that's correct.
Is Anupama in Amrit, Kiran? I guess we're well ahead of time, so.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll all join in.
Yes.
Because Karan is stressing and telling us to join.
I'm sure those stress calls are going as well. Hi, Amrit.
Hi, I'm here. Can you see me? I've been here.